Connecting to cloud server. Okay, so we are now recording. All right, so this is a review on business statistics. Okay, so I will be, once again, for those who just came in, I am your speaker, Engineer Charidian M. CABANLIT, or you can call me Ma'am Che for short. So I am an instructor, a full-time faculty of the Industrial Engineering Department, and I was invited by the College of Management, Business, and Accountancy. So first things first, by the way, you are always free to ask questions whenever we discuss. So if there are ideas that you want further discussion, just raise your hand, or you may interrupt me while speaking. Okay, just turn on your microphone if you want to ask questions. So these are our learning objectives for the first module. So as I have mentioned, it is separated into 3 modules. First is, of course, the introduction to business statistics, and of course, the introduction of data and what are variables of data, followed by how do we collect data and how do we present the data. Okay, and third one is how do we measure data. So those are the 3 parts that we're going to discuss this afternoon. So, okay. So our learning objectives for the first part is we are able to define what business statistics is, followed by definition of statistics itself and identify its main divisions, and identify the different types and categories of data. Okay. Now, what is meant by statistics? So before I flash the definition, can you input there in the chat box what were your concepts about statistics, or have you heard about statistics and what do you think it means? So kindly input in the chat box and I'll see your answers. What statistics is for you, and then I'll see if it's correct. Okay, can you input now? Okay, I think there's an answer here. So statistics is a form of mathematical analysis that uses quantified models, representations, and synopsis for a given set of experimental data or real-life studies. Yeah, that's correct. How about the others? Analyzing numerical data. Okay, let's see if it's only limited to numerical. We'll see that. Collection of data for future use. Yes, so basically we use statistics for a certain purpose. Okay, that's also correct. What else? Any other answers? Means numerical information expressed in quantitative terms. Okay, we'll see about that if it's only limited to quantitative. So you'll know later if it's limited to quantitative. The breakdown of quanti and quali info used for decision making. Yes, that's the one, no, for decision making. Form of analysis with quantified methods. Okay, qualitative and quantitative interpretation, collection, organization, analysis, interpretation of data. Okay. Data analysis to create action plans to achieve certain goals related to numbers, which is collecting data, all right? The practice or science of collecting and analyzing data in large quantities. Yes, let's see if it's only limited to large quantities, all right? Science of estimates and probabilities. Yeah, those are included also. Used for estimating a population parameter, describing a sample, or evaluating a hypothesis. Yes, they are related. Interpreting and presenting empirical data, collection, analyzing, interpreting. All right, so yeah, thank you very much for participating. You have a lot of idea already what statistics is. So somehow this conference will be a review lang yun, no? It's just a review for your idea already about statistics. So those are correct, guys, the one that you have inputted. And here's the definition that I have prepared. Statistics is the science of collecting, organizing, presenting, and analyzing, and interpreting numerical data to assist in making more effective decisions. So it mentioned there numerical data, but later on you will analyze that you can still actually present non-numerical data, but you just have to turn them into numerical data. Okay, so you will understand later how will that happen. Okay, so it's a science because basically you're following a process. Okay, it's a process of doing this one, the methods of collecting, organizing, presenting, and analyzing. Okay, because it's not enough that you collect only data. Yes, you might have organized data. Yes, you have presented data, but you did not analyze and interpret. So the purpose of statistics or doing statistics is basically to get or use this data for decision making. Now, what are the purpose of the decisions, or what are the decisions, no, that you are going to do with these statistics, okay, with this data that you have collected and analyzed? So depending on which area you're going to use that data. Okay, like for example, let's have an example of very common usage of statistics in the business, like Facebook, right? So Facebook is using big data analytics, but still it's part of statistics because the method of doing it is for doing effective decisions. So for example, the amount that the people are willing to spend to boost their post, that is through statistics. Or even on YouTube, when you usually skip survey, right? We usually skip survey when it comes to YouTube, but that is actually one way of gathering data. And whatever is the result of that data, they were able to create a decision that this commercial is not being shown most of the time. So basically, statistics is everywhere. Okay. Now, I want you to input in the comment section which part can you use statistics. May it be in your office, may it be in your daily lives, or may it be what you have observed in the online world, um, or everywhere. So kindly input there. Where do you see statistics? Across the board, applied to all. Customer feedback, very good. That's very good. Anything that is of interest, yes. Especially if you are business, you have your own business. So the customers' interests are very important. Project management, yes, that's also one. Where else could you use statistics? So even our numbers in COVID, that is actually statistics, no? The gathered data used to analyze that if we are for GCQ, ECQ, just now, no, we are if you're in Cebu, we are um, uh, still on GCQ, and that is because of the data that they have gathered. Yes, sales, that is very true. Employees' feedback. So even on employees, that is also used. Research, yes, very important. For planning, top management, most especially, okay? Performance reporting, yes, if you are given bonus, right? You're given a bonus, you're given a raise, or you will be transferred, that is through the performance reporting, and that is still statistics. Consumption, yes, no, your grocery, you might have to check the data in your grocery, if how much are you spending per month, right? Even on pandemic, okay? Incidence rate, yes, that's for safety management, that's also correct, and humanities. So thank you very much for again participating, yeah, in psychology as well. That is very true, especially for the number of cases with regards to, for example, mental conditions and the like. So those are where we can use statistics. Okay, so I hope that you have already put into mind what statistics is. So in layman's terms, basically statistics is we gather data in order to make decisions. For what decisions? Depending on a certain purpose. Okay. So in simple words, it's a set of numerical data. So it may not be numerical at first, but you just have to turn them into numerical data or observations to guide you to business decisions. So business decisions are those examples that you have commented in the chat box. Okay. So examples are vital statistics. So even your body is in the form of statistics. So if you are going to create, for example, no, design a chair or design a table, you need to get the anthropometric measurements of your users. So if you are designing it for Filipinos, then the height of the chair and the width of the chair is different compared to American users. So basically, you gather data for a certain purpose. Okay, link daw for the, yeah, that one is the link for the attendance. All right, so your monthly sales, so you're going to check if you are increasing in sales or decreasing in sales. So that is why I know that you've seen a lot of businesses right now that are on bankrupt. That is because, as they have projected, they might need to sell some of their assets in order to, sorry, in order to maintain their business. So that is actually through statistics. No, it's not a decision that is done right away. No, it's actually a long discussion before they consider themselves bankrupt. So yearly income as well. So for your own self, you can actually do statistics on your own, create an Excel data of your yearly income so that you know if you're increasing, maybe in your expenses or in your savings and the like. Okay, so business statistics, on the other hand, that was statistics, but business statistics is basically the science of good decision making in the face of uncertainty, and is used in many disciplines such as financial analysis, econometrics, marketing research. So if we know that statistics is the collection, gathering, analyzing, interpreting of data, business statistics, on the other hand, is on the part of doing good decision making. For what purpose? To face any uncertainty in the business. Okay, whether it be on your financial analysis, your auditing, the production operations, and whole lot more about the processes in your operations or business. Okay, so it was mentioned here, including services improvement. So even on our after sales service, we do statistics. If that is why every now and then um, we receive surveys. No, if are you contented with the service? Are you satisfied with the service that we are providing? So the score that you are going to give to them is actually very important. So even, for example, I know that you have shopped online, like for example Shopee or Lazada. There's always a customer feedback, and part of that is we wanted to know how our mobile app is performing based on our service through the rating. And sometimes our decision making as customers rely on the ratings. Do you agree? No? So sometimes if the rating is 0, we don't buy the product because the product is not yet tested. But for those products that have already thousands of buyers with good rating, we tend to buy the product even if it costs more. So that is the power of statistics, no? Especially in business. Okay. So what are the processes of doing statistics? As mentioned in the definition, we collect data. So the next or the first question here, Gid, is what type of data are we going to collect, right? Because yes, it's true. Yes, it's true that we know how to collect data, but on what data to collect, that is our struggle, okay? Because if we don't know how to collect such data or what data to collect, eventually the process of doing collecting is useless, okay? So it is important that you know how to classify the data that you're going to gather. All right, next, presentation of data. So once that we are already done collecting the data, the different types of data that we need based on the different techniques, later you will know what are these techniques. We now present the data. So as, of course, if we are employees or if we work for someone, we need to correctly present the data. So it's not all the time that bar graph is correct. Okay, so you'll know later when to use bar graph, when to use pie chart, when to use line graph, and the likes. Okay, with all those graphs that I'm going to present. So it's not all the time that bar graph is applicable. Okay, it's not all the time as well that pie chart is good for presentation. So there are actually rules in doing or presenting the data. Right, next. analysis of data. So in the analysis of data, it refers to obtaining necessary, relevant, and noteworthy information. So it is very important that you know how to analyze the data. And one way of analyzing data is to measure the data, like a simple average, no? A simple averaging, that is already analysis of the data, because you can already get a conclusion out of it. Okay, so it refers to the method of obtaining necessary. So once again, some might have, yes, know how to analyze data, but these data might be irrelevant and unnecessary. So it is very important that you know which are important in your analysis in order to provide correct interpretation, which is the fourth type. Okay, the fourth process rather. So in the fourth process, we now interpret the results. Okay, so refers to the tools of drawing out conclusions, descriptions, inferences, or generalizations from the analyzed data. All right, so let's have an example. Can you chat in the comment section? Can you comment in the chat box if what type of example do you want to give to me so that I can create a process of doing so. So just one, the first one lang na maka-chat. So I'll give an example as a process. Okay, I guess we have one. Paspasan ninyo mga reply. Uy. Okay. Complaints. Complaints ako nabasa. Raw score. What do you mean by raw score? Sir, Miss ba? Tama? Miss Leo Vighelda? Raw score, or I guess mas dali ang complaints. I'll start with complaints. So what complaints ni siya, Sir Francis? Complaints about work or Shopee? Shopee is more customer complaints, unsa man na network, so that we can be more specific and then I can give more specified answers. Unsa man? Customer complaints on your product, food industry. Sige. Sige, okay, pwede ra. Sige. So first is, that is why it's very important that yes, you collect the data, but you don't know what data to collect. So let's just say you want to know the different customer complaints in terms of your product na food. And you have to create a questionnaire. So one method actually is questionnaire. Your questionnaire should be very comprehensive. So when you say comprehensive, it should be detailed, wherein all the information that you needed for your analysis is there. So for example, what type of complaint are they experiencing? Next is how many times have they experienced such complaint? Next, what else? The name, maybe it may be anonymous if it's not necessary. Okay, and then what else? Complaints, number of times, what product were they complaining, no? So that you can check what is the reason why customers complain on that product type. All right, so those are just examples, no? How many times they have complained, what type of complaint do they have, so whether they expired or not packaged well. Okay, those are examples of the types of complaints and what product were they complaining to. So in that case, you have already collected the data. So through questionnaire or maybe feedback from customer or maybe just a chat in your Facebook page, those are already complaints, no? Those are already one way of gathering data. After that, you presented the data. So maybe in your presentation of data, you have seen there that most of the, when you draw a pie chart, out of your three products, product A is the biggest. So in that analysis already, that's the purpose of presenting the data, because you can automatically see what is happening with the data that you have. Because if it's just a raw data, there's no analysis yet, no raw pa man siya. So you cannot tell yet what is being common from all, or what is common from all the customers. Once you do the presentation, you have already analyzed that product A actually gets the most complaints, no? And then you go now to the analysis. So in the analysis of the data, looking at product A complaints, and most of the complaints are redundant. So there might be something wrong in your processes why product A has the most number of complaints. That then goes to your interpretation of results. So through research, through reading the data that, let's say, for example, 50% of the product complaints are from product A. And that's your analysis. The interpretation is the product A needs further study, and there is a need to really go back to these complaints, why they are always occurring. So let's say, for example, product A is always given as expired. So by then, you can already create business decision that you have to check the expiry date of the products before you put it in the store. Okay, or what else? You need to assign one person perhaps to check the expiry dates from time to time, okay, because there might be no one doing that. So by then, you are able to analyze and interpret the results and provide solutions. Okay, so that is the purpose of doing statistics. So that's just an example, but I know you have already something in mind in your current work or in your businesses that you can actually do statistics. Okay, so what are the different types of statistics? Okay, no, you're welcome, Sir Francis. All right. What are the two types of statistics? So please remember this one because this will be part of your activity later. So what I'm going to do, since some of you are not yet encoded in Moodle, I will be grouping you so that you can answer as a group. Okay, so your group later will also be your group in the next activities. All right. So please take note of this one. This will be part of your activity. The differentiating descriptive and inferential. Okay, now let's start first with descriptive. Now, what is descriptive stat? By the word itself, descriptive, meaning to say the purpose is just to describe. All right, so it just describes the data that you have collected, the data that you have organized, and even on your analysis. If the purpose is just to describe something, to define something, it is just descriptive statistics. For example, our COVID cases. So there are already, for example, 70,000 COVID cases. That is actually descriptive statistics only. Okay, because you did not analyze anything yet. Okay, so if the purpose is just to present something, describing something, that's descriptive stat. All right, what is an example of that? Sorry. Okay, example is a Gallup poll that 49% of the people in a survey knew the name of the first book of the Bible. So the statistic that the statistic 49 only means that out of the 100 people on survey, 49 only can describe that the first name, they know the first name in the book of the Bible. So that is just descriptive stat. Okay, so when you already provided data, let's say 49%, so that already means you can assume that 49 out of 100 only knew the name of the first knew the name of the first book of the Bible. Sorry, first book of the Bible, which is Genesis, right? So I guess I'm part of the 49%. So that's descriptive stat. Okay. Another one, according to Consumer Reports, General Electric washing machine owners reported that every 9 problems per 100 machines occurred in 2001. So the 9 there already states that there are actually 9 complaints in every 100 machines. So that is statistics only, describing lang yun siya. Okay, it's just merely describing. All right. So can you input in the comment, in the chat box, what do you think could be other examples of descriptive stat that you have witnessed in this time of pandemic, no, that you have seen? You can put it there in the comment box. So that's just descriptive stat. Okay, clear lang ta descriptive stat. Do you understand what descriptive stat is? Please give me a thumbs up. Thumbs up gets see descriptive stat. Yes. Okay, very good. So sabot ra, no? It's really easy to understand what descriptive stat is. So the next one is, okay, the next one is inferential. So I'm not sure if you have heard about inferential, but it's actually a different type of statistics. This one is quite difficult and needs advanced statistics. So in the industrial engineering department, we have two courses regarding inferential statistics. Actually, now in the new curriculum, it's 3. So before we only have 2, but now we separated into 3 because we have noticed that each type of inferential statistic method is actually, it really needs time to practice. Okay, that is why inferential statistics is really an advanced statistics. Now, why is it advanced? Because it's already pertaining to the methods of dealing with making inferences, estimations, and predictions. So meaning to say, inferential statistics already pertains um, to making conclusions. All right. Descriptive is just putting their describing a certain data, while inferential is already giving conclusions. So it's either what conclusions are these one? You may say that male is higher than female in terms of blah blah blah. That's inferential. Or it could be that the high school students are lesser in blah 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 than elementary students. So there's already a conclusion. So what does it mean when they say estimations? So the estimations there could be you estimate a certain hypothesis. So this is where hypothesis comes in. So in the hypothesis, you are actually assuming a certain group of people to be this and that, depending on what type of guess are you making. So as mentioned, hypothesis is an estimated guess. So it's a guess that is really quantifiable. So somehow we can use whatever the results will be with the hypothesis as a basis in our decision making, although it's still assumed. All right. And then predictions. So predictions here talk about the linear there is what we call linear programming, and at the same time, we want to predict if, for example, you want to predict if your score in the mock board exam will be also your score in the final board exam. So that is actually predicting. So those are examples of predictions. Or some would know already if they pass the mock board examination, they will also more likely pass the board exam. So those are probabilities with the play of probabilities. Okay, so if there are already inferences, estimations, and predictions, that is an example of inferential. Questions so far? Yes, forecasting is already considered inferential, especially if you use forecasting for decisions. No, you are already comparing that your sales in the future will be higher. Yes, those are examples of inferential stats. So assumption is also considered in the inferential stat. Okay, unlike descriptive that you're just basically describing good. You're just describing the certain data. Let's have an example that is relatable now. So for example, the COVID cases is just 10,000 For example, 70,000, are we 70,000? I don't know anymore the numbers. So for example, we are 70,000 in cases. So if you're just merely describing that we are 70,000, that's descriptive. Now, how does it become inferential? If you're going to do hypothesis testing that the numbers, that our numbers in terms of the increase of cases per day is higher in when we were not in when we were not in GCQ. So you're going to compare ECQ and GCQ, which numbers were higher, then that is already considered inferential. Okay, so if there is a process done aside from describing it and really doing hypothesis testing, that is considered inferential stat. Question so far, are we good with descriptive and inferential? No questions so far? This will be part of your activity later. I have provided 5 questions and you're going to determine if it's descriptive or inferential. Okay? All right. So no questions so far? Thumbs up, everyone. Are you still there? Lahit agad no if you can. Yes, lahit agad if I can really see the students. So because of this pandemic, that we have to adjust. All right. Next.
Okay,
So
ma'am, lipay na may kakita minimo.
Sige, Sir Ronaldo, thank you. Okay, we have here more examples so that buto sa nga brand Maybelline. Anyways, we have here a difference on the 2 types of statistics. Okay, so let's compare. Let's compare the 2 types. All right, descriptive and inferential. Sige, katawa si Sir John Ray. It's Maybelline, sir. All right. So, descriptive stat. For example, the college dean wants to determine the average semestral enrollment only in the past 5 school years. So, if you only want to get to or to know the average semestral enrollment, then that is just descriptive. Now, how does it become an inferential one? If you want already to forecast the average semestral enrollment based on the enrollment for the last 5 school years. So what is the good thing with inferential stat is because you can get conclusions and at the same time help you better in your decision makings. All right. So that is the difference of the 2. Although both are very important, because if you don't know how to do descriptive stat, eventually you don't know how to do inferential. You will not be able to do well on inferential. So both are very important. Okay, descriptive, another example, a chief nurse wants to determine the average number of dengue patients during the last 6 months. So if only average number or median or mode, then that is just descriptive. But it becomes inferential if you want to predict how many dengue patients could be for the next 2 years. All right. Another one, a businessman wants to know his profit for the past 3 months. Then it becomes an inferential one if he wants to estimate his profit for the next 5 months. So I hope both are clear so that you are ready to answer the activity later. All right. Next. Now, this one is also included in our activity. I want you to be able to determine the difference between population and sample. Okay, now what is the difference among the 2? It's very easy to remember. Population is basically collection of all possible individuals, objects, or measurements of interest. So meaning to say, even though the number is small, so long as all the people required or objects of interest are present in your study, it's still considered population. Nagets ra to siya? So example, you want to know how much is the average grade of grade 12 students, okay, of grade 12 students in this section only. Now, if you will get all 56 students score, then that is already considered population, even if the number of collected data is only small compared to a sample of many. All right, because your interest is only for that section. However, if your goal is only to get 10 from this section, 10 from this section, 10 from this section, 10 from this section, even if it is more than 56 from the population you have mentioned, it's just considered a sample because you just got a part of the population of the interest. Gets? Another example, you want to know the number of COVID cases in this hospital. So if you're going to get all the data from this hospital, it's population. But if you're going to get all a sample of, let's say, 50 cases, each hospitals in Cebu, that's a sample. All right. So as you can see in the drawing, the population is all the items that you have produced, no? The cars that you have manufactured. And in your sample, you only got 6 out of the, I think this is 50. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out of the 30. So out of the 30, you only got 6 samples. Now, that is the difference among the two. Now, I have a question here. Why do we need to sample? Why not get all the data? Why not use population? Because as what they say, the more population, the more samples you have, the better your results, right? Because it's nearer to your to the truest numbers. So why is it that businesses use sample and not population? Please comment in the chat box. I'll see your answers. Yes, that's very good. Very number one, no? Interest of time. That's very good. You don't have time to gather all, right? Even if it's between 50 or 51, this is sample, right? Yes, it's still considered sample if not all are recorded. Yes, another one. That's very good. It is very costly, no? So one, it takes time. Two, it's costly. And that's also correct. You have limited resources relating also to time, to money as your resource. So if you don't have many people to gather data, it's really going to take time, no? Like for example, our election. So during election, not all are, although everyone is required to vote, but not all are able to vote. However, the results will still be considered because one, we don't have access to all people. Second, we have to save also our resources, right? And thirdly, not all will be able to vote, maybe because they wanted they wanted to not to vote, no? They just don't want to vote. So we can't have everyone and wait for everyone to vote just to be able to get the votes already. I think Miss Shobi Patrimonio raised her hand. Miss Shobi, Miss or Mr. Sorry.
Miss.
Yes, yes, Miss Shobi. You have a question, Miss? I think duha to ang nag-raise sa ilang hand. I forgot. Wala na akong nakita ang usa. Yes, Miss Shob. B. Wala mo na usa. You're on mute, ma'am. So, okay. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, wala ko nag-raise og hand, dili siya mapangutang.
Nakuha di mo na natuplokan. Okay. So, again, those yes, that is correct. The purpose of doing sample is to be able to make use of the current resources that we have and already assume. So basically, when we do sample, we are already assuming that for example, the 6 cars already dictates the entire population. Okay, that is acceptable in statistics. So only in statistics, assumptions are acceptable. Okay, but other than that, it's not good to assume. Okay, so in statistics, it's okay to assume. Now,
excuse me, Mama.
Yes, Miss Duran.
Yes, I have a question. So,
Yes, yes.
in terms of sampling, is there a way for us to really identify
Mhm.
how many samples are needed, or is there a standard rule for that? How many samples are needed in a certain population?
Okay, very good question, Miss Duran. Actually, yes, we have a process for that. That will be on our third discussion. So in the third discussion, I will be, or I think in the second part of the collection of the data and presentation of the data, I am going to teach you how to compute for the number of samples that you need in order to say that this population or batch is already being um, are having already correct number of samples. So there's actually a standard for that. Okay, that's
Okay, thank you.
Sloven's formula. Yes. So we will discuss that later. Okay. Now, that's also correct. In the rule of industrial quality control, we have also a category, a table that actually dictates already that if you have, let's say, 100 samples, this number is considered. So it's actually a long process, but some companies, they already created a template for it so that the workers may not have to compute anymore. So it will be done already by the quality officers. So that is actually depending on the sensitive. I don't know how to call it, but more on the how fragile the product is. So let's say, for example, if your product are kind of barato or cheap only, then you can just have a few samples, because if ever there are products that will not be functioning, it will not be too costly on your part as a business, because you can just replace it right away. So that's also considered when it comes to sampling. Another one, if the products are very expensive, you need to have as much as possible 100% checking, or at least a 50% or more than your usual checking or sampling. So it actually depends on the type of product as well. Okay, there's also a saying that there are products that need to be 100% checked. And what are these products? These products are those products that entail life and death. Example, airplanes. You should not only get a sample of one airplane out of your 10 airplanes produced, because all airplanes should be checked. So that should be 100%. Now, ma'am, why is it that cars are only sampled with, for example, 10 out of the 50? So cars can actually be um, sampled, because if ever there are defects in the car, before you give it out to the customer, you do 100% checking first, right? But on the production side, delivering it the to the stores, it will take time if they have to check everything. That is why sampling is being done. But before you give it to the customer, you always have to 100% check one car. And part of that is the good thing with cars is there are already available repairs. So that's the good thing with cars. But I don't know with specific companies that really do 100% checking. But as what I've known, for in the manufacturing side, they don't do any more 100% check. Instead, they get a sample and then they just distribute all to the company, to the stores, and the stores are the ones doing the 100% checking of the car before releasing it to the customer. So another example for 100% checking is, of course, medicine. Okay. What else? Glass. So those um, figurines and the like. So you need to do 100% checking for that. So there are actually products that should not be sampled. Okay. The very common logic for that is, let's say, for example, you want to know what blood type you are. You don't need to get all your blood, diba? Just to know what blood type do you have. So that is an example. That's what I usually joke with my students. Now, you don't need to extract all the blood just to know what blood type you have. So that is the difference between population and sample. So do you get now the difference among population and sample?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Later, we will have a discussion on how to get the correct number of samples. All right. So these are the reasons why we sample the population, which we already discussed. The physical impossibility of checking all items in a population, the cost, no, it's mentioned by some of you in the comment section. The sample results are already adequate, meaning to say, as mentioned in statistics, assuming that the sample results are already the population results is always acceptable. Contacting the whole population will be time-consuming and the destructive nature of certain tests. So the destructive nature meaning to say, some tests might be harmful to animals or to humans being tested. That is why we have to sample and not really do all or check all the population, right? So this is an example. All students of CIT University. Sample is only the CMBA students of CIT University. All patients in the surgical ward in the hospital. Sample will be patients of the surgical ward under the respiratory complications only. So all companies manufacturing candies or companies manufacturing candies that have only less than 300 employees. So those are that is an example of the difference among the two. So this will be included in your survey. Questions so far before we go to variable? Does everyone get the difference? Get the difference among the between population and sample. Thumbs up. Okay, so yes, I hope you're still there. So all right. So we have already differentiated different descriptive, right? Descriptive and inferential, and we were also able to differentiate population and sample. Now let's now go to variables. So are you familiar what a variable is? So you know what's a fixed data? Kabawra mo what fixed data is? Do you have idea what is the difference between fixed and variable data based on the photo? Can you chat in the comment? Comment in the chat box. What is the difference among the two between fixed and variable data? Any idea? What is the difference among the two? By the word itself, fixed. So what do you think is a fixed data? And what is a variable data? No idea? Fixed data is constant, while variable, it varies and changing. That is correct, Mr. Rowan. Variable can change over time. Yes, it actually takes a value. Okay, that's very good, Sir Francis. Variable as to ever changing. Yes, that's correct. So basically, guys, fixed is fixed. Example, the value of pi. So pi, it's 3.1416, right? It doesn't change. The value of E. So E is always E in the exponent. What else? Numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are fixed data. What else? What are other fixed data? So those are examples of fixed data. Basically, they do not change at all. Okay? But variable, on the other hand, is it changes from time to time. So for example, age of students. So of course, age of students in terms of averaging, it changes depending on the number of samples you have, the number, the students that you are actually gathering, the students that you have collected the data with. So those are variables. Okay, what else? A gender could be male or female. No, it could be a male or a female. So it actually she uses a value, okay? Uses a value at a certain time depending on the usage, okay? Next, that is the difference of the two. Now let's learn more about a variable, okay? So variable is a characteristic, description, or attribute of persons or objects which assume. So again, it's always okay to assume with statistics, okay? It assumes different values or labels depending on the person's under study, okay? So for a moment.
Message ni Chibok sa sir. Virtual pala ito. Message ko po kay Sarah. Virtual yung message. Mula ni Chibok staff, ni President, yung Mayor.
Wagi lang na. Hello, sorry. Okay, so where were we? All right, for a while, huh? All right, so variable is anything that assumes value. So, mean to say, if for example in this study, this variable, let's say income of families, the number that you're going to use for example, X is the income of the family, then X is income of the family. Now let's just say you did another study and you still used X. So X will now have a different value or label. So let's say age of the students. So X will now use age of the students. So that is why the variables are usually in alphabet, because they can assume different values, unlike numbers, which are already considered as specs data. Okay. So examples of variable data are name. So your name changes, okay? If, for example, you ask for the names of those respondents in the survey, then that is considered that is considered a different one for each respondent, okay? Age, gender, civil status, course and year or program and year, their ID numbers, religious affiliation, weight, height. So anything that can actually assume different values, that is a variable, okay? Now, there are actually different types of variables, okay? Qualitative and quantitative. So the difference among the two is that by the word itself, qualitative or attribute, meaning to say these data are non-numeric, all right? That is why in the description, statistics is actually handling numerical data, but you can actually turn qualitative data into numerical data, all right? So let's say, for example, gender. How do you turn that into a quantitative data? If you will put 0 as male and 1 as female. So at least you can already count how many, or even just by the male and female, and you are going to count the number of male and the number of female in your survey, that's already considered numerical data, all right? So qualitative or attribute, meaning to say you are actually getting categorical responses. Well, by the word itself, categorical responses, meaning to say these data are non-numeric in nature, okay? So their religion, the type of automobile they owned, okay, will it be 4 wheels or the brands perhaps, state of birth, their eye colors. For example, we have brown, black, blue, so those are categorical responses. So that is an example of attribute variable. On the other hand, we have quantitative variables. So the quantitative variables are the variables that are mostly used in statistics because it's easier to conclude with, no? So however, we will know later on that actually attribute variables are also important in our analysis. All right. So information is reported numerically or yields numerical responses. So example, balance in your checking account. So it will be 6 digits or more. Minutes remaining in the class. So that's also an example of a quantitative variable, or the number of children in the family. All right. Now, we categorize further quantitative variables. So this is also included in your activity. So first is katong descriptive and inferential, followed by population or sample. The third test will be, is it discrete or continuous? Now, let's differentiate the two. Again, the two are part of quantitative variables, okay? Variables that are numerical in nature. So the difference among the two is that discrete variables don't have numbers in between. So, meaning to say, they only assume certain values, and there are usually gaps in between values that are counted. So in short, so that you can actually remember it right away, discrete variables are integers. So what are integers? Those values that do not have decimal points. Okay? So no gap. For example, the number of children in the family. So you don't count, I have 5.6 children, or the number of bread that I have baked is 10.1. Diba? You don't say it that way. So discrete variables are variables with having gaps. All right? So for example, the number of bedrooms in a house. So 5. You don't say 5.4 bedrooms. All right? The number of hammers sold at a local Home Depot. So those are examples of discrete variables. Okay? Yes, whole numbers sila, integers, whole numbers. So that is an example of a discrete variable. All right? So you have to be careful, because some of us, we tend to look at a type of variable and consider it a continuous and not discrete, when in fact, it's better to use it in a discrete. Like for example, now we have students in our research, they want to determine the reordering point of the ball pens. So they want to count how many ball pens do they have to reorder, especially if already reached a certain level. So what a certain level for replenishment. And their solutions, of course, if we do quantify it, the solutions, because the formula is in square root, so obviously it will not be a perfect it will not be a perfect whole number, right? So what they usually give in their research is they will buy 10.9 ball pens, no? So you can't buy 10.9 ball pens, so you have to always round it up to 11. Okay, so that is very, very important, that you have to determine if you're going to use discrete or continuous. So obviously, continuous is the opposite. So it assumes any values within a specified range, assumes infinitely many values corresponding to the points on a line interval. So example of this is pressure in a tire, the weight of a pork chop, or the height of the students in a class. So meaning to say, you are able to get a data that has decimal values. So let's say, for example, your height, your weight, okay, your income. So those are having decimal values. So that is continuous. I guess I have more examples here. Wala na. So here's a summary of the types of variables. So for quantitative, basically it's just purely categories. Quantitative, it's categorized into two: discrete and continuous. Discrete examples: children in a family, strokes on a golf hole, TV sets that you own, social, no? TV sets that you own. So those are examples of discrete. Continuous: amount of income tax that you have paid, weight of a student, yearly rainfall. No, this is in America ni siya na data. So that is a summary of the types of variables. By the way, questions with regards to discrete and continuous. Can you give an example there in the chat box? Example of a discrete, an example of a continuous. So that I would know if you have understood. So I guess kasabot ra? None so far. So hopefully that was clear. We have the last one, but this one is levels of measurement before we go to activity. I just want to check if you have really understood the difference among the mentioned topics, no? So this is the 4 levels of measurement. This is the last part in our first topic on the introduction of statistics and introduction of data. So data is actually categorized also in 4 levels. So what are these levels? It's nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Now, ato i-differentiate, okay? Let's differentiate the 4. Nominal is, these are just categories, okay? They're not placed in any particular order. They are not arranged. They're just categories per se. So example, eye color. So you don't say that blue-eyed people are greater than the black-eyed people. Sa black-eyed. Sa brown-eyed na lang. Sa brown-eyed people. Alright? Or gender. You don't say that male is greater than female or female is greater than male. So meaning to say, there is actually no comparison among the categories. So it's just purely categories. Okay? So you don't also say that Muslims are greater than Catholics or Catholics are greater than Muslims. So that is nominal level. Okay? Purely categories lang yun. Alright? Clear? Kasabot ra? So that is the first level. Now it goes higher, no? And it levels up to the next type of level. The next level is the ordinal level. By the word itself, by the keyword order in the ordinal, so order means you're actually categorizing your data into a certain order. Okay? But the order, the differences in the order are meaningless. Alright? So meaning to say, it doesn't mean anything at all, even if they are already placed in order. Example, small, medium, and large. Okay? True, they have an order, small first, medium, and then large, but we don't mean that small are greater than the medium or lesser than the medium and vice versa. Gets? So they might be placed or arranged in order, but their gap or difference is meaningless. Okay? So example here, you did a taste test of the 4 soft drinks. So I'm not so familiar with this Mellow Yellow, Sprite. I only know Sprite and 7-Up. So you might put in categories like Mellow Yellow ranked number 1, but it doesn't mean that it's better than number 2. Okay? So they're just placed in order, but their meaning is, or the gap is meaningless. Right? Sprite is number 2, 7-Up number 3, Orange Crush is number 4. Because it might be that for this group, Mellow Yellow is number 1, but if you do test another type, another set of subjects of interest, their results might be different as well. So that's just ordinal level. Okay, you rank them according to order. Okay, interval on the other hand is actually an ordinal level, meaning to say you place already the data in category, but their gap is fixed and it has a meaning. All right? So there is already additional property that the meaningful amounts of the differences between data are determined, but the difference with interval to ratio is that it has no 0 point, no natural 0 point. Example, temperature in a Fahrenheit scale. So example, no, 37 degrees, and then there's a gap with 36 degrees, so na 1 degree na gap, and the 1 degree gap has a meaning, right? So mean to say, if you increased your temperature, that means you are you are much you're paduhilantan, no? So there's a meaning in the gap, okay? But there's no 0 degree, right? It doesn't mean that if it's 0 degree, it's really empty. Gets? So it doesn't mean that if we consider it 0 degree, it just means it's colder. It's the absence of heat. right? But it doesn't mean that 0 is 0. So there's no natural 0 point. Okay, so examples of interval are those exams that are fixed, no? Like NCAI results. So those are exams. What else? IQ test. So that's interval level already because the difference among the scores has a meaning. All right? Question so far with the 3. Gets ra so far? Questions? You're always free to interrupt, huh? All right. And the last one, guys, is the ratio level. So the ratio level is actually an interval level. So if it's an interval level, meaning it's already an ordinal, it's already a nominal, right? So it's an interval level, meaning to say it's an ordinal level with meaningful data, but the difference with interval is that it has a starting point that is 0. The differences and the ratios are always meaningful for this level of measurement. Example, monthly income of your parents or your monthly income. So if you don't have income, if it says 0, it really means 0. Unlike temperature, pressure, that if it means 0 pressure, it doesn't mean 0 at all. Okay? Unlike ratio, that if it means 0, the starting point is really 0. Okay, distance traveled. So if you stayed there, you did not move anything or you didn't move a feet, then that is considered 0 distance or 0 displacement. So it really means 0. Okay, so that is ratio level. Questions? So let's differentiate, no? Let's provide a summary. Nominal data are only classified. Okay, jersey numbers in the football players, the make of the car. Ordinal, you are already ranking the data. So your rank in class, your team standings in the Pac-10, okay? Interval, they're ranked, but there is already a meaningful difference, but no true 0 point. Okay? Temperature, your dress size, right? Or your size here sa mga vital stats, okay? While kada mga inches and all, ratio, on the other hand, meaningful 0 point is an interval data, but with meaningful 0 point. So if it means 0, it really means 0. Number of patients seen, number of sales calls made, distance to class, so on and so forth. Yeah, I guess that's the end of first lesson. Questions so far? Kasabot ra, tanan?
Yes.
Okay ra? All right. Yes. Are you open already to Moodle? For those who are not yet enrolled, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to group you into 10 members so that you can actually answer together. But for those with not yet enrolled in Moodle, you just have to take note of the answers na lang so that once you are already enrolled, you can just input, okay? So I will be giving you around, what time is it now? So I'll stop share. So this is the Moodle, by the way. I'm going to open the Moodle class. What I'm going to do is just group you so that you can answer together, all right? And your groupings now will also be your group in the second and third activity. We are 74, so I'll just divide it into 7, and then the other 4, I'm going to spread it to other groups, okay? So I'm sure you can open already in the web about Moodle. So by the way, this is your Moodle class. So I hope you can see my screen. I'll be the one to group lang, ma'am, so that automatic na lang siya. So this is the Moodle site of your class. So topic 1 is already there. This is the slide that I have used a while ago. And then this is your quiz. So here, you're to answer. So, preview lagi ni siya. Sige. Preview quiz. So, here, this is the first question. Determine if the data is nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio. Alright? And then, if you go to next page, you are to determine whether if it's discrete or continuous. So, you just have to choose here, discrete or continuous. And then, next one is, you are to determine if it's descriptive or inferential. So 5 numbers each are good ni siya. So this is only 20 numbers. And then choose whether the example is population or sample. And then you just have to finish attempt. So again, this is unlimited attempts, guys. So if you did not get perfect score, you can actually answer again. So I'll stop share. So I'll just do the groupings, ha. I'll be the one to group you. So what I'm going to do is I will put you in breakout sessions, okay? So you will be regrouped to your members, and then maybe at least one from your team will screen share so that you will answer together the Moodle question. And then after that, once you're done, you can just go back to the main room. Okay? So I'll give you until 10 minutes na lang, no? I think mga 2:40 to answer that. So before we proceed to the next one. Or siguro kaya ra siya in 10 minutes, mga 10-15 minutes. If dili pa mo mahuman, you can always go back to Moodle. I just want you to discuss as a team so that samtang fresh pa, no? Samtang the idea is fresh and you can answer right away, okay? But if you will not pass, it's okay to take it again, okay? I placed it there, unlimited attempts. All right, so I'll do now the breakout sessions. Wala lagi ni siya breakout sessions. Ma'am Carla, are you there? Ma'am Carla? Ano si Ma'am Carla?
Madam, suggestion, madam.
Yes. Yes, miss.
Bithay, madam, bithay.
Yes, ma'am.
Kaning activity, madam ba? O individual na lang, madam, be, kay murag makuan man may ma-overwhelm ko aning kaning mga activities na pinakay different ang time zone sa namo ba.
Okay. Wala pa yung model.
Limited mo atong time. Oo.
Sige. Okay.
Time.
So you will just have to answer on your own na lang. Ana na lang.
Okay. Para dili ka stressful. Dili kay stressful, madam. Kay kaning tiguang.
Sige.
Hindi man ni madugayan.
Sige, ma'am. Okay ra, ma'am. If you don't have Moodle yet, I think you just communicate with ETEEAP na lang.
Adi, naala ko yung Moodle, madam, pero hinay akong internet connection.
Yeah. I guess. Sige, okay ra.
Nag-open pa siya niya. Di niya ko ka-participate niya. Nag-open pa man. Hindi ko katupa.
Sige, ma'am.
Sige, madam.
Different time zone. Alright, sige. Okay, since it's already available naman sa Moodle, so I guess you can just answer on your own. And you have unlimited time to do it, so make sure lang that you answer. Sige.
Anyway, if we have questions, madam, can we message you na lang, madam? If we
yes.
Okay.
You can chat in the Moodle, said ma'am. May chat option sa Moodle, yes.
Okay, sige. Thank you so much, madam, ha?
Yes. Okay. No problem. Sige, let us proceed now to the next. Wait. I have to open it pa di ay. Alright, so I guess na klaro naman to, no? It's yeah. For those who don't have Moodle yet, you have to communicate with Ma'am Carla. And sadly, wala yung breakout sessions ang kanim or wa pa na-activate. So ako na lang ni siya ihatag as an assignment ang mga activities. Although these are very easy to good, okay? Sige. I'll open now the next slide. All right. Okay. For a while. All right. So let us now proceed to business business statistics topic 2, which is data collection and presentation. Okay, so can you see my slide now? All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. There. So our learning objectives for topic 2 is that you will be able to determine where the data is gathered, identify the different mediums of presenting data, and the different methods of collecting data. So now let's describe what is data collection. So basically, data collection is collecting raw data for the purpose of doing statistics, and at the same time, again, for business decisions. Now, where can you get data? Okay, so these are the different sources of data. We have data distributed by an organization or an individual. It could be a designed experiment. So you experimented and you get the results from the experiment. That's also one way of collecting data. Or the very easy data is the data given by an organization already, like DOH, the census, or the PSA, Philippine Statistics Authority. All those organizations that provide us data. That is also one way to collect data. Or you do surveys, no? You do questionnaires, you go house to house and get survey, or you do online surveys. That's an example of where to collect data. And an observational study. So I'm sure that most of you do observational study in your businesses, right? In your you observe your workers, you observe your workmates. Okay, so if you are a team leader in your group, in your work, then you do a lot of observational study. Okay, now there are actually two classifications of data. We have the primary and the secondary. When we say primary, it means we actually use data for the purpose of collecting it by ourselves. So when we say collecting by ourselves, we are the ones who really collected the data. That's primary source. So if you are the researcher and you really went to a school and gathered distributed questionnaires, then the questionnaires or the results from the questionnaire are actually primary sources because you're the ones who really gather the data. That's primary. The secondary are the easy ones, no, because it's already given by an organization or a certain individual who has already compiled the data for you. So that is a secondary source. Now, question: if you have an office in your department that is actually in charge in collecting data, and you are the ones who analyze the data, the collectors, if they will use the data that they have collected, it becomes a primary source. But if you're only analyzing a data that has already been collected by other people, it becomes a secondary source. So for example, now we as IEs in the department, we are always the one who do analysis on the different behavior of students and the different offices. It's already a secondary source of data because the offices are the ones who gather the data. But if they will do the research and they are the ones who also gather the data, it's a primary source. Okay, so that's a difference among the two. Now, which one is better? Of course, there are pros and cons for both sources. For primary, you will really say that you can actually attest that the data is correct and accurate because you're the ones who collected the data on your end. Secondary, on the other hand, is the opposite of the advantage for primary because what if the data are manipulated? So that's the difference with secondary. However, the advantage of secondary sources is that it's easier for you to analyze because the data is already given to you. No, it does not take time because you just have to analyze whatever is data given. But the advantage of the secondary is the disadvantage of primary. It takes time to gather data if you are the one who will really have to collect the data for yourself. So that's the pros and cons of the two. Okay. Now, in sampling techniques, this is also a way of answering the question a while ago. about how do we sample. Okay, there are actually a lot of ways to do sampling. Now the easiest ones are actually these two, because it's non-probability, meaning to say you don't do any quantitative measure in order to do sampling. So, but they're actually still acceptable, like convenient sampling. Okay, convenient sampling is somehow I can say that it's biased, but it's actually still acceptable because you are the ones who select the respondents that you're going to give the survey or the questionnaire to. Okay, because it's convenient to sample these people only. So, like for example, now I'll give an example. Let's say you are to compute for the number of people who would want your service with regards um, to let's say funeral services. So if you are to get data to St. Peter, to Cosmopolitan, just to get the right number of people to interview, it will really take time. But in fact, you know people who have experienced deaths. So why not give the survey to them because you know that they have experience? That's actually convenient sampling. Okay, convenient sampling because you just give the data to the people that is convenient on your end, because you know also that their results will give you ample information. Okay, that's convenient sampling. Okay, so it's inexpensive because whoever is near to you, you can actually do interview. Like for example, you want to interview nurses with regards to their situations now. If you know a friend who is a nurse, you can just give the form to them. You don't need to get data in the hospitals, who are you going to interview, so on and so forth. So that's convenient sampling. Judgment sampling, on the other hand, is you already pre-selected experts in your subject matter. So let's say, for example, you want to know the new rules that you have made, and you want to collect information from a lawyer, so or an attorney. So you don't need to get the list of attorneys in your city and find the one randomly, you know, so it will really take time. So you just do judgment sampling. So you know that these attorneys will give you enough information with regards to your proposed solution, and these attorneys are known to you, or let's say somehow it's a combination of convenient sampling, no? So you already know this attorney, so you might have to just hand out the survey or ask or interview the attorney on your own. So that's judgment sampling. So it's already getting pre-selected experts in the subject matter. So usually judgment sampling is used in um, focus group discussions. So let's say in your offices, no? You want to know the result of your proposed solution. That is why you gather the marketing head, no? You gather the team leaders, okay? You gather let's say, the finance head. So if it relates to money, like advertisement and all. So you just gather all that is important in the decision making of that proposal, and then you don't need to anymore randomly pick someone just to be sampled. So that's judgment sampling. So I hope that's clear. Convenience and judgment sampling. Most of the time, that's what we do. No, we just didn't know that it has a term. No, it has a term: judgment and convenience sampling. Now, the next type or technique is the probability. So, see, probability. This one is a we already have a use of numerical before we. Well, can we consider brainstorming in judgment sampling? Yes. Most of the time in judgment sampling, it's really in a group discussion, so that whatever they input in your system, you just have to write everything down. So it's still, yeah, brainstorming. So although the brainstorming is the process, but judgment sampling is the type of people or the type of respondents you're actually going to get. What about workshop? Those are actually processes, Mr. Johnny. So Those are just activities in order to collect data. But the process of sampling who are going to attend the workshop, that's judgment sampling. If you have chosen yourselves na kinsa gyud ang mo, who will be the one to join the workshop or who will join in the brainstorming. So that's actually part of the collection of data. But the judgment sampling is on the choosing who will join or who will be your respondents rather in the interview or in the focus group discussion. Okay, so I hope I have answered that question. Next is probability sampling. So selecting items based on probabilities. So meaning to say, you're actually sampling based on a certain probability or chance. Okay, where we have actually 4. Yeah, we have 4. Simple random. I think this is what we usually do, no? Simple random, wherein in a certain frame, we list items in the population has the same chance of selection in every other item. So you actually did not have basis for choosing. Instead, you're just, let's say, for example, section 1 and section 2, you get random 10 people. Section 2, you get another 10 random people, but you did not have strategies in gathering the 10 in that section. So that's simple random sampling, and that's what we usually do. Okay, but actually these types of sampling methods can be combined. All right, so later I'll have an example of combining both. Next, systematic sampling. So systematic sampling is basically you are going to get the kth number, KTH number, in order to determine the respondent in your sample. So let's say, for example, in every hour in every hour in a Jollibee restaurant, there are 20 people coming in. So example lang na ha, you have 20 people coming in. And in the 20 people coming in per hour, you want to get 5 samples. So if you want to get 5 samples, in order to do systematic sampling, you just have to use the formula K is equal to N over N. N is the bigger, mean to say the total number of people coming in, so the total number of subjects of interest over the N, the small n there responds to the number of samples. So for example, 20 over 5, because you want to get 5 samples, diba? 5 respondents. So 20 over 5, that's 4. Meaning to say, you have to give the questionnaire to the 4th person every time. So did everyone get that? Example, in 1 hour, this 8 to 9 a.m., there are 20 people coming in. So for every 4th person, you will have to give the questionnaire. So first 4, okay, the 8th person upod, then the 12th person, and then the 16th person, and then the 20th person. So you actually got 5 samples. Okay, but on who to give the questionnaire, that's actually systematic sampling. Okay, so for every 4th person who will arrive, you will give the questionnaire to. So that's systematic sampling. Okay, next, stratified random sampling. So see, stratified random sampling is the procedure of subdividing the n items in the frame into a separate subpopulations or strata, and a sample is selected from each stratum. So example of this is you want to give the questionnaires based on the number of population. Let's say, for example, we have 4 big cities here in Cebu. We have Talisay, we have Lapu-Lapu, we have Cebu City, and we have Mandaue City. Now, each of the cities have different population, right? For sure, Lapu-Lapu is lesser than Mandaue, and Cebu City is bigger than Mandaue and Lapu-Lapu, and Talisay is lesser than all of the 3. So you don't give equal number of samples to the 4. Gets? So let's say, for example, Cebu City is 100,000 in population. Example only, ha? 100,000, and then this is 50,000, and then this is 30,000, and then 20,000. So the number of questionnaires you are going to give will be based on their number of, in their size. So obviously, if your goal is to give only 100 samples, so 100 samples, you get the percentage of 100,000 to the total population. That is the percentage of questionnaires you're going to give to Cebu City. Gets? Questions so far? So let's say, for example, out of 100, 100,000 divided by, let's say, a total, let's say 40% is for Cebu City. So 40% times 100, you give 40 questionnaires to Cebu City. And then the other 60 will be given to the other 3 cities. So that's stratified random sampling. Okay? So you want that each cities will be well represented based on their size. But that's just an example. So it depends on your measure of sampling. Okay, next. Cluster sampling, on the other hand, procedure of dividing, that's dividing the n items in the frame into several clusters so that each cluster is representative of the entire population. So cluster sampling, on the other hand, is, let's say, you want to determine the number of cases with regards to age. So let's say from the old, young, children. So that's by cluster, and then you get a sample for each. So let's say 5 from the young, 5 from the old, 5 from the children. So that is cluster sampling. Okay, you separated them because you want that each clusters is well represented. Because if you only gathered responses from, let's say, from the old, obviously the results will be only applicable to the old. If you really did put clusters, then it will represent the entire population. The representatives of each cluster will be unbiased. Okay, so that's cluster sampling. Questions so far? Questions? I hope everyone understood the questions. Agree lang?
Yes, madam. Bit high.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yes, ma'am.
ask lang ko, madam, how
Yes.
what is the standard sample size for the whole population? Pila may standard ni madam?
Okay. Okay, ma'am. I actually have a presentation that here. This one. So this will answer your question, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, this is Sloven's formula. So, timing kayo yung question, ma'am. It's the next slide. So, Sloven's formula is actually being used by companies, but there are already some that don't use this one because they feel that it might be too large for a sample because it's really the desired sample size, mga good. So, that is why companies, they do 10%. No, there was one who commented here that what they do is 10% sampling, but it actually depends on the size, good. For sure, the bigger the size, the more samples you need. Okay, so how do we compute that? This is the formula. The capital N there represents the population size. So let's say you have 100 workers. So 100 workers, okay? The E there is the margin of error, meaning your tolerance to error. So if you allow 5% error only, so therefore your E there is 0.05. And then you have to square pa that one. Okay? Again, the square is only applicable to the E, meaning your margin of error. All right? And then your capital N is your sample size. And then your N now is your desired sample size. Do we have an example here? Okay. I'll show an Excel for a while. So, can you give me a capital N, so meaning the population size, so that we can compute it and then let you see how much sample size do you need. So, okay, I'll share screen and Excel. Sige, you can, okay, 1,000 employee perhaps. So the formula, right, is for small n, this is your sample size. Makita na akong screen, no? You can see my screen. And then your capital N here is your population. And E here represents your error. So your allowable error. So let's say 1,000 employees, now as mentioned by from the chat box, and your N is, this is what you're looking for, right? And your allowable error is, let's say, 0.05, but it's really up to you. If you allow 10% error, then that's okay. So this error here is actually a company decision, depending on your tolerance level or parameter, depending on which one is more important, parameter or tolerance. Okay, so to compute for the number of sample size, the formula was n divided by, right? N divided by 1 plus NE square, right? So to do that in Excel, your capital N, so 1,000 employees divided by, okay, 1 plus your 1,000 employees times your error squared, right? So if you have calculators with you, it's easier, but the way I can show you is through Excel. So this is how you compute in Excel. So click, meaning to say you need to have, so you can just round that up. So we can actually create a command that you can round up. So now question, why is it always round up? Why not round down? If you will round down, meaning to say, if let's say for example the value is only 285.1, so it's only 0.1, ma'am, but that means you cannot cater already the 0.1, so it will not, it will miss the purpose of getting the right number of samples. So you have to always round it up, okay? Whether it will not reach 0.5, but of course if it will reach 0.5, automatic you have to round up, meaning to say you have to survey 286 employees. So that is how you compute for the sample size through Sloven's formula. Question. So if it's 100, you just have to survey 80. See? That is why Sloven is not much used by companies, because it's like almost 80%. Now, as you can see, it's almost 80% of the population. So somehow it will actually what do you call this? It will actually it's just like computing or surveying all the 100 employees, because only 20 are not applicable. So maybe you will have to lessen the error, no? So if you want, you can lessen the error, because as you lessen the error, your sample size also lessens, because it will be more you are less stricter, no? You're not strict with regards to samples. So if we will lessen that, let's say 005, uy, 100 lagi. Huh? Wait. Do I have error in the formula? Ay, sorry. You have to increase rather your error. You have to increase your error because you are more tolerant to errors. Sorry. So let's say you allow 20% error. So as you see, you're only allowed 20 samples because your error is lessened, no? Let's say 10% error. So you just need to get 50% of the sample. Or if you're really not that very strict with regards to error, so let's say 40% allowable error, you just have to sample 6 out of the 100 employees. So that is Sloven's formula. Questions? I think na questions sa comment box. Yeah. No, ang akong concept was wrong. So the higher your error, meaning the more tolerant you are to errors. So it will lessen your sample size. So si sample size and si error is indirectly proportional. Okay? Questions so far? So I hope, yes. Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir, Johnny.
What is the ideal error normally?
Okay. In statistics, sir, the allowable error good is 5%. So that's the very traditional. It's not too strict and it's not too loosen also. The loosen one is 10%, and the very strict one is 1%. So those are actually the three errors that you have to remember only. 1% very strict, 5% is just the traditional. That's why we have an acceptance level of 95%. Okay, and 10% is the loose one. Okay, but 20% medyo that's too loose na, and errors might occur more if the error is 20%. So what I suggest is you set it to 5%. That's the very safe one. Plus
So
minus 5.
it means, ma'am, if the higher the error, so you are tolerance to your okay.
Yes, because the higher you allow for errors, meaning you tolerate more errors, so you're okay with more errors. But if your product or the data that you need implies more accuracy, then you need to set only at least 5%. The strictest one is 1%. So although 1% already is like 100% sample, so you might have to do population already if 1%. So what I suggest is you use 5%. You can maneuver it to 8%, 7%, no, depending on what data you can gather in your tolerance level. But the standard is 5%. Okay? So I hope you put in mind the formula n over 1 plus n e squared. So you are only going to square the error, not the entire n times e. Okay? Only the error. All right. So this is actually an example of the stratified random sampling, the one I mentioned, that Lapu-Lapu, the Lapu-Lapu, Cebu City, Talisay, and Mandaue. How much samples are we going to provide to them? So let's say your n is 1,000, and when you computed the Sloven's formula, that's 1,000, right? And how much ganito? That was 286, di ba? 286. So after you computed, you already know how many questionnaires you're going to distribute. So let's put that in Excel. I think it's easier in Excel. So here, diba, it's 1,000 employees, no? And your error is, let's say, 0.05. So you have to give 286 questionnaires. Now with the given, with this given here, so I'm going to show it here. Uy, dako. For a while. So our goal is to get the contribution first. So let's say CMBA, CAS, SEA, CCS, COE, okay? That's 250, 200, 150, 300, and 100. So your sample here, yeah. So you add them all up, it's 1,000. Now you have to get the percent contribution. How do you get the percent contribution? 250 divided by your total. So you just have to fix the value of 1,000 so that you can drag it. So that means you are to distribute 25% of the questionnaires to College of Management, Business, and Accountancy. Okay, so that's how you do. This is the stratified random, stratified random sampling. And this is actually what is being used by most, no? Then since from your n, your sample size is 286, you just have to multiply that with 286. So times 286, okay? And then maybe you can round it up, or you can maneuver so that your goal is it will reach to 286. Sige. So I have to sum this up. So this is where you maneuver. So 286, no? But you cannot give 71.5 questionnaires. So maybe you place this as 72. And then maybe this, sorry, that's 81. So 72, this is just 57. And then 43. 86, 28. Okay, so at least the total now is 286. Meaning to say, for CMBA, I'm going to give 27 questionnaires, or I will interview 72, not 27, 72 people or students. In CAS, I will only give 57 questionnaires or interviews, 57 people. So that is the combination of using Slovens and using stratified random sampling. Question so far? Sabutra. Pareto. Pareto is a different one because Pareto is identifying or prioritizing which among your data are you going to prioritize first in solving. Because usually Pareto is used for problems or complaints or defects. No, that's why it's a rule or it's a tool in quality. Okay. Questions, but Pareto is still using contribution, but if your goal is to only prioritize which group are you giving the questionnaires to, then that will be Pareto. But in this case, this is stratified random sampling. Question so far?
Ibawaan na ma'am, inighatag sa exam.
But naklaro na, everyone. Maujud ma'am. But klaro na guys, how you conduct it, no? How to use or what you use with Sloven's formula. Yeah, so at least you have already an idea now how to compute and how many samples are you going to use, especially if you are tasked to do surveys, no, or to analyze data. Right? So I hope you have learned something from that. Next is how are you going to present the data? So manakag sample, no? You're done with surveys, you're done with getting or collecting data. Let's now go to data presentation. So how are you going to present data? So there are actually many ways, whether it be textual. So there are people that they do present textual lang, but there's also beauty in textual presentation, but of course it is always better to have graphs or figures. Okay. Now, example of a textual presentation is this one, no? The Philippine Stock Exchange Composite Index lost 7.19 points to 2099.12 after trading between blah, blah, blah. So meaning to say, it's just basically discussing the numbers in text. All right? But some let's say newspapers or blogs or whatever articles, they even have graphs, but they still put textual, no, just to support the graph, because some people don't know how to read the graph. So the people will have to rely on what is written in the text. Okay, but as what they say, you only do textual presentation if your goal is just to show at least one liner, or it's not applicable to use tabular presentation. So if the data you're going to input is only one line, it's not going to be tabular. Textual na siya. So let's say, for example, you want to categorize this group, this is the number. So for example, Philippines only, Philippines, then number of COVID cases, then one line only, then header, and then no country, and then number of COVID cases. So that is very irrelevant to use tabular in that matter. So if that's the case, use only textual. All right, so you just have to inform that Philippines is now having blah, blah, blah number of cases. So you don't need to tabulate it. Okay, that's the beauty of textual. So if the data is only a few, one-liner in a tabular form, you just have to do textual. Okay, next, tabular display or tabular presentation. So imagine if we do this in textual presentation, it will really be a long paragraph, right? So you have to use tabular now if you are to organize one data with its corresponding count or number. Example here, this is exchange rates. So for US, it's 50.7890. So you can automatically determine that the US dollars is in 50.7890. So if we are going to do a tabular, a textual backup with this table, you just maybe name a few, like the highest is Bahrain with 134.7260. So it's more on a conclusion type. And then followed by United Kingdom with 72.52 and US dollars, which is 50.7890. So you just have to mention the three. You should not mention all the numbers presented there. Okay, because the tabular presentation already states that this is the corresponding exchange rate. Okay, so that is tabular. Next, graphical. So graphical is where we already make use of, the good thing with us in this time is we already have Excel. So before, we really do manual graphs, diba? But with Excel now, you just have to highlight the data and then Excel suggests any type of graphs for us. Now, when is the best time to use these graphs? Okay, so this is the one I mentioned that not all graphs can be used, okay, for a certain type of data. Bar graph is used if you are to compare, all right? To compare among categories. Example, you want to know the level of enrollment per year level. So meaning to say, you compared first year, second year, third year, and fourth year. And with the bar graph already, you can already say that the highest is the first year, no? And the third year enrollment is the least among the four levels. So the bar graph already has a conclusion for you. So you might have to put a backup textual presentation that third year level is the least among the four levels, or the highest is the first year in terms of enrollment. So that's bar graph, okay? Comparing among categories. And as you notice, diba, there is a gap, no? Now, what does the gap there means? Although this is too large of a gap, but actually there is no standard for what is the actual width or what. The important thing there is there should be a gap among the data. Why? Because they don't we call that they are the term is not mutually they are mutually exclusive, rather. Mutually exclusive meaning to say they're not related to one another. The first year enrollment is not related to the second year enrollment. That's why the gap is present. Okay? So the gap is present because they are not related to one another. It doesn't mean that if you're enrolled in second year, also enrolled in first year. So that is why they are mutually exclusive. They do not happen at the same time. Okay? Next. Next is multiple bar graphs. So there are times that we want to determine also two types of data, but we want it to be presented in one graph. And that is through the use of multiple bar graphs. And to differentiate the two, you just have to use two distinct colors. So this is the common mistakes of makers of graphs because they use the same color. Maybe same color but different shade. So it will, for the viewer's point of view, they are of the same colors. So it might give them same results. This one is a very good example because blue means music CDs, karaan na kayo, no? Music CDs, and the red ones are the books. So as you notice, Lisa's collection per month is increasing, whether in terms of CDs and books. So that's what you're going to conclude from the graph. Okay, so that is That is an example of a multiple bar graph. Again, please use distinctive colors. Make use of the primary colors, no, the red, yellow, and blue, then followed by the secondary colors, orange, violet, and green. So do not just use one type and then different shades. So there are some, they use black, gray, and white. So it will be, it's not very clear to the viewer's point. So you have to use distinctive colors. Next, pie chart. Now, when are we going to use pie chart? Pie chart is used if you are going to get a contribution from a population. All right? So for example, no, you want to determine the favorite movie genre of Mr. Smith's film class. So in the class of Mrs. Smith, 27% likes comedy. Okay? So you can already determine that in that population in that class, 27% of them likes comedy. Now, as you notice, the colors are, although it's not really distinctive, but they are really different in color. And unsa inyong na-notice sa pie chart? As you notice, right, the highest or the largest pie comes first. All right? So if you see pie charts where the smallest one is the first here, that's a wrong chart. That's a wrong pie chart. All right? In a pie chart, the rule is you have to sort first your data from highest to lowest before making it into a pie chart. Because the viewer's point is clockwise. Yeah, it's clockwise. Yeah, clockwise. So they will always see that the first chunk in the first quadrant of that circle is the highest chunk. So automatic, orange, and then I'll look for orange here in the legend, comedy is the highest. Okay? Followed by 18%, which is action. So your legend should also be in order, based on the order of in the clockwise. All right? And the lowest 8% are science fiction and foreign. I think kuha niya na interchange. No? So that is how you use pie chart. So it's a wrong pie chart if the first part in the clockwise, in the first quadrant is the smallest. That's wrong. Second, if it's not total to 100%, of course, so kailangan it's a total of 100%. It's also wrong if there is no values provided, like 27%, there's no 18%. How are we going to determine if it's 27% without a label? Next, is also wrong without a legend, because we won't know if what the orange means. Or you can also do comedy, put it in the pie chart. But somehow, if the values are too small, or like the chunk is too small, let's say if it's just 1%, then the label will not be clearly seen. That's why there is there's a line that says this is the label. But if it's cleaner to do by putting legend, then it's better to do by putting a legend. Okay, so that's the do's and don'ts of a pie chart. Okay, so they should be in order, highest to lowest, clockwise. All right, so you observe now pie charts. Are they doing correctly, or are they being graphed correctly? So that's also, you have to review also your pie charts if you have done some pie charts in the past. Okay, next, line chart. Now, what is a line chart and what is the purpose of a line chart? Is it same with bar graph? Obviously, no. Okay. Now, tell me what is the error in this chart? Although this is correct, this is a correct chart, but what do you think is the error of this chart? Can you tell? Sige daw.
Ma'am,
Yes?
it's
Yes,
more about
Sir Dagny.
it's more about the label, ma'am, because a line chart, mainly I use this because I want to see a certain point where I have two comparisons or more. I want to see on what certain point do they meet So for example, if there was a sudden change and I need to compare what I did, for example, for this chart, it doesn't give us the numeric what is being compared to. So the label is missing. So for example, in 1997, it shows that from a 40 and a 20, they meet. So for example, if I want to know what happened, why 1997 was the same, I need to see the label, what is being compared to. And also, I need to know also, if, for example, in 1999, showing that the 40 is higher than was previously on 20. So without the legends, without the label, and the what is the comparison, basically is missing on the line chart, ma'am.
Yes, very good, Sir Bono. That is very true, no? There's also a comment in the chat box, no distinctive colors. So if you're just going to solely base on diamond is for male and triangle is for female, you can't actually distinct or differentiate in 1997, di ba? As mentioned by Sir Bono. You cannot distinct, is that triangle or is that diamond, no? Or which one is on the top or bottom? So it's always better to use colors rather than this diamond and triangle. And there are also no labels here in the x-axis, no? So you have to really place that this is dropouts count, no? Number of dropouts in terms of student dropouts. And then on the level in the x-axis, it's in years. So again, guys, line chart is only used if you are going to if you're going to determine the high and the low, or highs and lows of data with regards to time. All right? So line chart is only used if the x-axis is in time. So as you notice, this one is in year. So if you want to compute the rise and fall of your sales in terms of months, then you can use line chart. In terms of, let's say, decades, I've said decades, no? Usually what we survey is just 5 years before data. So let's say in years, then you can use line chart. Okay. Now, can bar graph also be used when it comes to time? Halfly yes, halfly no. Yes, because you are comparing the year performance. Okay. That's why there are bar graphs with line charts embedded, right? I'm sure you've noticed that. There are actually line charts that have, bar graphs that have also line charts in them because the x-axis is in terms of time. So you want to know in a data perspective that comparing the year performance, they're actually different. But in terms of the highs and the lows, so in terms of trend, line chart is the best tool for that. Okay? So trend, meaning to say, nisaka or niubos, high or low of data. Okay? So those are important things to consider when it comes to line chart. All right. Next, histogram. Now, what did you notice with histogram compared to bar graph? Sige daw. What's the difference with bar graph? Yes, there's no space, right? That's why I emphasized in bar graph that bar graphs should have gaps because they are not mutually exclusive. But with histogram, there is no gap because you want to determine the relationship of this data to the other set of data. And usually histogram also has an added bar graph. Line chart. Okay? So here, although this is not being mentioned, what F here, maybe F here means frequency, and the class boundaries are 31.5 to 41.5, and then from 41.5 to 31.5, the frequency is 9. From in between 31.5 and 41.5, that's 5. Because the x-axis values are related to each other. They are not mutually exclusive, meaning they can happen at the same time. They are a certain range in a certain measure. Okay, so that is histogram. No gaps because the values in the x-axis are related to each other, or we also call this like continuous data sila. Okay, so that's histogram. Okay, questions so far. So these are the ways to display our data or present our data, whether it be text, whether it be tabular. So the easiest one and the more organized one is a tabular presentation. And sometimes a tabular can still be further presented into graphical display, whether it be bar graph, multiple bar graph, pie chart, line chart, and histogram. Questions? Questions so far? Okay, I'm reading a comment here. No questions. Yay! Okay, wala. Sige. So, next. What are the requisites in a questionnaire? So, actually, there is also a standard in making questionnaire. Okay? So, first is you have to keep your language simple, especially if your respondents are, let's say you want to determine, usually our students, they want to give or to create designs for farmers, for janitors, or for junk shop, or garbage collectors. So you have to keep your language simple. You should not use overly uncommon words. Okay? So sometimes paman gani, what we suggest when we make a questionnaire is we turn it into Bisaya, right? Especially for our workers. So you have to keep your language simple, easy for them to understand. Next, keep your questions short. So it should not be a very long paragraph, because let's say it's a long paragraph and your question is at the last part, the respondent will not understand anymore what are you really trying to ask. So as much as possible, keep your questions short. Okay, next, keep the number of questions to a minimum. So I'm sure you have tried answering surveys or forms. Right now, the common is a Google form. Diba, if a Google form is already 5 pages or more, it's really like tiring already. How much more if actual interview or actual giving out of questionnaire to, let's say you are in a restaurant or in a fast food chain, and people there are really busy, no? And then you have to hand out a questionnaire, and the questionnaire is super long, like 20 pages. So it's really going to stress out the respondent and wouldn't want to answer. Okay, that's why questionnaires or your questions should be limited to at least 5 to 10, or depending, as long as it will already gather or collect the right questions. That is why it is important that you know what questions to ask. Okay, next. Limit each question to one idea or concept. Do not jump from one idea to another, because it will burden the respondent. For example, you want to know, do you like this idea? Yes or no? If yes, you go to question number 8. Sorry, if no, you go to question number 8. Then question number 8, why don't you want to try the blah blah blah? But if the statement says, if yes, continue to next question. So that's okay, as long as your questionnaire is really organized well. But the technique there is you have to be your own respondent. So it's for example, you make a Google form. No, right now we are already in Google form. So be your own respondent. So for example, you limit you create your questionnaire, and then in your questionnaire, let's say on number 8, if the answer is no, he doesn't need to answer any more further questions because his answer is no. So you have to command to him that, okay, thank you for your time, thank you for answering, so on and so forth. You should not oblige the respondent to answer the questions that is irrelevant to his answer. That is why you have to be your own respondent. So you try to answer on your own first before you hand it out to others. Okay? Next, avoid emotional or morally charged questions. So it's really unethical to include questions that are challenging morals of the respondents or emotions of the respondents, especially if you're a funeral service, for example, the type of business, or let's say you want to get information from depressed um, patients, no, or those with mental health conditions. So you have to ensure that you will not be able to crack their emotions. So let's say, why are you depressed? So don't put questions like that. Now, why are you depressed? So it's hard to really get answers with questions that are why or entail statements. So as much as possible, you hand out already answers. Diba, you notice questionnaires are in multiple choice, no? In multiple choice na sila. Like, for example, how much are you willing to pay? Or you're given 100 below, 200 above. So you are already giving information na, okay, answer this one. Then you just put others if they don't want to answer based on your choices. But for why questions, why not? So you have to specify their limit to one sentence only so that they will not have to think more what to answer. Okay, next.
And
Organize.
ma'am.
Yes, Miss Pat.
Sorry, to add lang ba, close-ended question.
Close-ended questions, you mean yes or no?
Yes.
You mean yes or no?
Yes or no.
Yes, that is also very good example of a question. As much as possible, it is definite. Some are good, I think you've noticed also, some, for example, the answer is, do you want to try this product? Yes, no, maybe. Do not add maybe, because how are you going to decide maybe, manggod? So, unless you consider maybe answers as potential customers, but it's really hard to include maybe. Right now, questionnaires, let's say, for example, you rate your teachers, diba? When you rate your teachers, there is a number 3 always na rating. But number 3 is neutral. So meaning to say the teacher is not good and the teacher is not, you can also say that she is good. No, so neutral. So how will the teacher improve? So that is why right now ratings should be 1 to 4 only, eliminating number 3. 4 as the highest, 1 as the lowest. So that is for the teacher's purpose na ma-improve siya. So you might have to recheck your questionnaires if you have one in your business or in your work. So do not add neutral because it will be hard to decide for neutral answers. Okay? Next, organize the pattern of questions. So as mentioned a while ago, if he will not answer any more number 8, proceed to the last number or whichever is required in your questionnaire. Organize and always test. No, do testing of your questionnaire. That one, pre-test or pilot test the questionnaire. So try to answer on your own first before you give it to others. Have a series number of your questionnaires. So for you to have a guide that you're actually handing out 100 questionnaires already or 286 questionnaires already, provide a guide. Let's say cluster 1 is siyang questionnaire. So C1001, C1002, so on and so forth. So have a series so that you have a guide that the questionnaires are already being returned. Okay? Have your questionnaire neatly produced on quality paper. So who would want to answer a questionnaire that is crumpled or dirty, diba? So the concept of the respondent is that this is not questionnaire any, this is not for any business purpose. So as much as possible, ensure that your questionnaire is neatly produced. Okay, but now it's already in Google Forms, so make sure that it's presentable. There's an image, there's a proper grammar, so on and so forth. Okay, finally, make your survey interesting. So as much as possible, it will really get what you're trying to look for or collect from the respondent. At the same time, they feel that they have the need to also answer the survey. Okay, so can I say it? Make sure that all the items in the set of questionnaire are coded in the same direction. So for example, no, this one, social security system must be reformed, SAADSD. So strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree. So murag yung positioning gani kay na last na noon si disagree, no? So if possible, make sure that if your choices in question 1 is agree, strongly agree, and all those, question 2 should be the same as well. Not that in question number 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, diba? So it's a different one. So make sure they're coded in the same direction. Okay. Next. Okay, this one. This is an example of Hershey's chocolate customer survey. So thank you for helping me. So you need to have an introductory statement. Okay, thank you for helping me. Your answers will be kept confidential because that is why most of the surveys don't ask for names, diba? Because we want to keep ourselves confidential in our answers so that we can give honest answers. So question, how old are you? Blank years. So why does it that some, in terms of age, they put range, let's say, they put a range like 0 to 5, 0 to 6. Diba, ang nakalisod mo na, the hardest part in putting range in the values is they become categorical data. Okay, so let's say for example, 0 to 6, 5 people answered. 6 to 10, 4 answered. So mean to say the 0 to 6 is not anymore a numerical data, but in turn it becomes a categorical data in that certain range. So if you want to measure the average number of age, or the average age of your respondents, then just put a blank. Then let them put their actual age. Okay? Are you male and female? So that's categorical data, no? So you give them already suggestions what to check. How much do you spend on groceries each week? So there, again, if you are going to put a range, it becomes a categorical data, or you use a group data to compute for its average. So it's a different way to compute for that. But the good thing, if you just put a blank there, is you just have to do averaging. Okay, that's why you have to think ahead, no? If I'm going to analyze this data, am I going to do average on this, or am I going to just get a range so that it's easier for the users to respond, so on and so forth. So it depends on your purpose. How many chocolate bars do you buy in a week? So just put blank, okay, so that you can get the average. Then which type of chocolate do you like the best? Is it white, dark, or milk? And how satisfied are you? How likely are you to buy? So very likely, likely, not likely, very unlikely. So then you say thank you for your time, huh? Because of course, survey questionnaires are always a favor for all of us. All right, so let's say you have 20 customers, no, and then these are their ages. So as mentioned, it's really better to just put blank because they can just put their age right away, and then you can do the average, no? Then gender, male, female, the number of groceries, you can do the average. Choco bars, these are the number of choco bars they buy, their favorite, then their satisfaction level. Now, what did you notice with satisfaction and likelihood? Diba in the questionnaire, these are categorical data, right? Satisfied, not satisfied, very satisfied. It's categorical, it's a nominal data. But in your results, you actually place this, okay? You used very satisfied as 1, satisfied as 2, not satisfied as 3, and very satisfied as 4. So meaning to say, you have categorization already in the satisfaction level, okay? So that you can average, and then when you average, say, I think I place it here. Oh, wala di ay. Okay, I don't have man good the Excel ani, but if we could have the Excel on ta, satisfaction level, let's say the average here is 2.5. So if it's 2.5, that means 2.5 is this one, no? 1, 2, 3 manit, 3, 5, 4. So meaning in between satisfied and not satisfied. So the 2.5 there already dictates that the customer is in between satisfied and not satisfied. But if the results is 1.5, meaning to say it's in between very satisfied and satisfied. So that's the beauty of using numerical data in analyzing. All right. So after doing the tabular data, so these are your raw data. You did not analyze yet, no analysis. It's just being put in a table. Okay. You then create or present in a pie chart or bar graph. So in terms of male and female, you want to determine the count of male and female. So in this case, 12 out of 20 or 60% are male respondents and 40% are female respondents. And then you can create already a chart. So ang kuwang ani na chart is wala siya label nga 60 and 40. But good thing is you have a tabular backup, which can tell that 16 is siya and this one is 40. And then here, in terms of the number of chocolate bars, so 55% or 11 out of 20 actually likes milk, followed by dark and white with 4 sa choice. Okay, so you used bar chart. Then from there, you can say that out of the 20, milk is their favorite. Okay, so that is the purpose of doing questionnaires and then presenting it, collecting it, and organizing it into a table, and then presenting it into a data. Now, the purpose of getting this one, as you notice already na, more people actually like milk. Therefore, we produce more milk in our production. So we might have to improve our production rate in terms of milk bars rather than dark and white. So that's why you notice, let's say, pancit canton, no? Common man right now in groceries. There are more production, or there are more demand with pancit canton, calamansi rather than the original. That is why the production always produce more with pancit canton, because they know that people like it more than the original. So they lessen their production rate to original, knowing from the survey that not all like the original. So that is how you're going to use statistics in your business. Okay, so you just didn't realize that actually you are doing statistics in your analysis of demand, analysis of replenishment, or reordering. So those are actually statistics. Okay, so with the activity 2, I'm just going to show, this is still under assignment ihapon. So I'm going to open Moodle. By the way, questions so far? Do you have questions? Understood ra ang presentation of data? Yes?
Yes.
Yes, scary bells ra. Okay, so I'm just going to show, by the way, the activity 2. Supposed to be, this is also done today, but because of, as we mentioned, technical issues. So akong plan unta is that you are going to gather a data, or you are going to create a questionnaire. So create your own questionnaire, maybe a simple lang, create a questionnaire, and then gather maybe 10 respondents para easy, 10 respondents. And then after that, you put it in a table and then graph. So maunta na siya ako ipabuhat today. So since I have already your class list, I will be grouping you in Moodle, if complete lang gini siya, para one submission only per group. Okay ra? So one submission only per group, and then choose lang mo, pwede ra gyud the data is already existing. but I think I want to see how you create questionnaires. That's why I'm going to change this one. I want you to make your own questionnaire to make you as primary source of data. So create one questionnaire and then gather at least 10 to 20 respondents since you will be 5 in the team, so at least makapa-survey mo duha. And then after that, you collect the data as one in a team, and then you make the best type of graph to present the data and of the data that you have collected, and then after that is you upload it in Moodle. Okay, so ma-upload here. So for example, na-click na ninyo siya, you will have to, asa ako mo gud sa teacher na side, but sa student na side is you have to click lang submit. And then if you're already grouped, only one from your group will upload. And then I will grade your output based on your results. Siguro 10 members lang tamo para more hands. Then I will have to check also. I will give a survey later if you have a laptop or kay para at least mag-group ta mo nga ang at least na duha or tulo from the team with laptop to do the tabular and all those presentations. Okay ra? So yun ra, di ba? Now, what are the different topics that you can choose from? Maybe you ask questions from students regarding online class. Maybe ang mag-question mo nga, do you own a laptop or what is your problem with regards to online class? So maglista na mo daan, wala sila laptop, no Wi-Fi or internet connection. And then in terms of users of video conferencing app like Zoom, so which one do they prefer? Zoom, Google Meet, Discord, or Jitsi, and all those. So simple lang, maybe 3 questions. Ana lang, minimum of 3 questions. And then you graph the 3 questions. Ana lang. And then maybe in terms of COVID cases, would you ask or would you ask someone na ay COVID, although this is kind of morally unethical, maybe I'll change lang the letter C. So you're not limited to these topics. These are only example topics. You can have more on your own. So long as at least minimum of 3 questions na inyo i-graph. Okay na siya. Okay? Deadline, no deadline. Kamulay bahala. So long as each group should be able to upload. 1 upload only per group. Questions?
Aray ka nang kuan murag kumbaga murag leader sa group na mo upload.
Yes. Yes, kamulay bahala, kamulay assign kinsa inyong leader who will create the grouping. Ako lang, I will be sending out a questionnaire. Yang sa questionnaire is kung siya na abakay laptop, na abakay laptop or na abakay internet, so that easier ako pag-grouping sa inyo ha. So ako lang i-post later ang form. Okay, na lang ko usbon gamay ato nga form. Alright. Okay, sa akong mga student. Yes.
Respondents gani imong need ma'am.
Respondents, mga 10 to 20 lang ma'am. Okay na siya. Oh. So if 10 members mo, at least 2 respondents makapa-answer mo. Ana.
Ya kanang dapat dili siya murag ang respondents dapat dili appeal sa group. Or pwede ra?
Depende. Kay, for example, if students affected by online class, yung mag-limit lang mo to college, then dili mo ma-include. But if general niyo nga, including mo, pwede rasad. Pwede rasad kamay mo answer.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Oo, that would be easier, no? Kung kamuli mo answer. Oo. Na-evaluation link si ma'am. Hapit na di oras? 5 pa man ta, no?
Ma'am,
sige,
after ma'am, napay-quiz, ma'am? Or mo na activity?
Katong naa sa Moodle, sir, mao na to inyong quiz. Sayon na kayo to siya. Mao na to inyong quiz. 5 numbers each na to. Then mo yung activity.
Tapos activity 2 included siya.
Oh, yes. But group na ni siya si activity 2. Individual si activity 1.
Okay.
So mo ni si kato akong ipakita ganina si activity 1. Kato determine if it's population, determine if it's sample. So, sa'yo na kayo siya kana, population or sample ba na siya? Discrete or continuous? Okay na, descriptive or inferential ba siya? Yung 5 numbers ra. Sa'yo na gid kaayo. And then, multiple attempts. So, you can take, so discrete or continuous. So, you can take many times as long as hangtod ma-perfect. And your highest score is your score. Ana siya. Nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio data siya. And then, if malimot, we already have here, so if makalimot mo, if you forget about the discussion, we have the topic already uploaded here. Okay? And then for the activity 2, just read again the instruction. Ako ni siya i-redo later. Nakatong mag-create good mo questionnaire. So, ang required ninyo is questionnaire. And then the maybe you place it in one file lang, in i-PDF lang siya, or i-PowerPoint siya, then i-PDF, maybe, depende. And then, so long as ma-present ang kana ng mga parts. Magbutang na lang po ko sample outline, siguro. Okay, for the questionnaire, I want to check the Google link. Okay, for sure, Google naman yun niya atong buhaton. So, I want to check the Google link para makita na ko ang inyong questionnaire, ang method sa inyong pag-question. So, that will be part of the grading. And then, sa inyong documentation, i-attach lang ang Google link, and then ang katuna din yung tabular results sa raw data, and then ang graphical results. Ana. Kaya maura gid na ang tulong akong kinahanglanon for the activity 2. Deadline for the group. Unsa man mag-deadline ta para mahuman gyud. Open ra gid ang submissions, but dili lang daw, no. Si Sir Leo, no daw, no deadline. Sige, no deadline, but I hope you will.
At least 2 weeks, reasonable.
Reasonable ang 2 weeks, yeah. Until kuan daw, before graduation lang daw. ang nakabati lang po na before graduation kay kanang or near graduation na nalimot na sa unsaon siya. So if possible, as soon as possible na lang. But no deadline lang, okay? Ana. Next. So the third one is data measurement. So this is our last topic, so we're almost done. By the way, before we go to the last, can we take a photo up first? Okay ra ninyo? Can you turn on your camera? This is for documentation and attendance as well. So, kindly turn on your camera. We are three ang ato ang kuan. Ang nakandot ro no kay bisag dili ta maligo kay makaspila ra gid ta. Sa unang good kay kuan gyud. No? Bisig na ta sa balay. Sige, turn on your camera first.
Kami ni mata diri.
Buntag pa diri, ma'am.
Oh, so yeah, I will be including in the kuan, I will be including in the questionnaire kanang asa mo dapit, so that I can assign you with a group nga naara sa Cebu or naara sa Philippines para maoy mahimong leader. So no problem na gyud sa mga nasa outside, cause you will be grouped with the team na naari maka-lead. Okay, so I will include that. Sige, picture ta. For a while. Okay. Sige, 1, 2, 3. Katulo ni siya, so smile lang mo anytime kay wala ko kabawasan ni. Sige, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, ako say save. Okay, next. Okay, next batch. Smile lang gihapon kay wala kabaw if nasulod ba ta or wala. Sige, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, ako say save. And last batch, daghan-daghan gyud taro, no? So sa last batch, walay mga camera ang last batch. Sige lang, names na lang. Okay, smile. Okay, thank you. You can turn off now your cameras. All right.
Ma'am Shirley,
Yes.
question lang po. For
Yes.
the group activity ba, for the number of people na we have to do the survey, is there like 20 kailangan 20 people or depende na lang sa amin, ma'am.
Minimum lang siguro siya, sir, of 10. Minimum
10,
of 10.
okay.
So you can have more. But at least 10, because 10, you can already graph that man in the koan. But by the way, just an information, the standard sample that we should have good is 30. So 30 is the standard. 10 is already too little. That is why we use t-test for small numbers. But if 30, it's already considered population. So that is why ample na nga na data if 30. But in your case, to accommodate everyone, okay ra gyud ang um, 10 and above. Okay, so kamo na bahala. So if you're 10 in a group, at least you can survey 2 people. Kamo na ang usa, you will be the first, then the other one, maybe your friend or family member or who else na inyong i-survey. So that's easy right to do. But for the group to compile, you must assign one to be the leader to compile everything and help you para at least um, mag-brainstorm, happen mo on the best type of tool to use. Alright? Or sorry, graph to use. Question so far, wala na?
How will we know who's our group mates?
I will be grouping you, ma'am. Do you have a Facebook chat ba?
Yes.
Na may Facebook chat? Because
no, sorry,
I will...
Katong sa ETEEAP, ma'am, students.
I'm not yet included in the chat group because I think I'm one of the late enrollees.
Okay. I will ask Ma'am Carla to include me in the chat so that I can post the groupings. And good thing with chat is at least you know already who is your group mates kay naana sa group chat, no? So please let yourselves be included in the chat so that you can kay my groupings will be based pa man on your availability area and all. So I have to categorize or classify you o dili pwede na random lang yun kaayo because maybe ang makategorize na ko all from outside of the country, so magisud. That's why I have to manage the grouping. So I will post also the survey later. All right, sige, let's proceed first to the last one. Para if we have questions, we can answer all of that. Last na ni siya, and then gamay na lang ni siya. So, ay sorry, wala pa din na share screen. Share screen. All right. Okay. So the last topic is data measurement. So data measurement is basically aims to help us measure data. So you will learn now how to use Likert scale. You will learn how to measure data, and you will learn the simple analysis of data. So actually, data can be computed into 3 ways: mean, median, and mode. When you say mean, that means you get the average. So the other term for mean is average. So for example, in the chocolate bar example that we had, right? There are 10 respondents, and the average age of our respondents are 24.4. So it's a continuous variable. The mean groceries is 3,330, and the mean choco bars that they buy is 2.05. So basically, you just got the average of the data. Now, what is the advantage of doing average? So any idea? Why is it important to get the average, or what is the difference with getting the average rather than the count? So for example, in the mean chocolate bars, there were answers that are 1, 2, and then most of them, mas daghan ang answer 2 than 1. So why not use 2? Why compute it with 2.05? Question, sige, answers. Baseline. Pwede. It becomes your source or basis for example, you will have to compute or forecast, no, the number of production or number of items to produce based on the average. Yes, that's correct. What else? What do you think is the reason for having average or using average and not mode? Target, pwede. So if you want to target, let's say for example, no, there are 20 to be able to break even, no, like to be able to break even in a production in a day. Let's say you need to produce 20 or so, you need to sell 20 products. So if you go beyond 20, then that's better. If less than, then there needs improvement. Well represented. So even the smallest, that's very correct, Sir Canilio. Is it Sir? Or Miss Canilio? So even the small, Miss Canilio, the very good thing with arithmetic mean is that even the smallest data is considered in the average, diba? Let's say for example, no, you have 50 students, and the 50 students, one student got 1 point out of 50. There are 3 students who got perfect. There are, let's say, 4 students who got, let's say, 2 points only out of 50. So in an average, even the smallest data is considered. Okay, so that's very good, Miss Canilio. It's well represented because even the smallest or the largest data are considered in the average. It did not eliminate the smallest and the largest data. Okay, so that is the advantage of arithmetic mean. Okay, somehow it becomes also its disadvantage because it changes your average if there will be at least one will be too far. So we call them outliers, no? So if the outliers will be present, somehow the average is affected. So that is why arithmetic mean also has a disadvantage even though it uses all the data. Okay, next. I'm sure you're familiar with weighted mean. Now, why do we use weighted mean? Weighted mean is the same with what we did with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no, for the choco bars questionnaire. So 8 people answered very satisfied. Okay, you cannot just average all of them based on the count. Okay, what we do is we have to use weighted mean, considering that very satisfied. Oops. Okay, so I have to put this in Excel. So for a moment. For a while. Makita ang screen, no? So, oops, I have to, all right. So how do we compute data in a weighted mean? So for instance, very satisfied, we have 8 people, no, frequency niya. Satisfied, only 7. Not satisfied, 3. Very unsatisfied, 2. And then sum is 20. Now, if we consider very satisfied as mag-add ko cell, diba, very satisfied is 1 man to, no? 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, in order to compute for the mean with regards to, so mo mong categorical na giturn mo into numerical value, you have to do weighted mean. So, weighted mean is 1 times 8. Alright? And then 2 times 7. So, mean to say, the frequency is multiplied to the number. So, mura na siya, for example, rating sa teachers, no? You rated the teachers if you're satisfied, not satisfied, and the like. So, let's just assume that, let's use this as 4, 3, 2, 1. so that it's easier. So that the bigger the number, that means the nearer to very satisfied. So you just multiply all those. And then after that, the average, the sum, okay, sum of respondents is then divided by question 20 or the sum of 1, 2, 3, 4. Sige, which one is correct? Should I divide in order to get the weighted mean, should I divide 61 with 10 or with 20?
Ang 10 mamo, ito yung number of questions.
Mo na siya si very satisfied, satisfied, not satisfied, o very kuan. Si 20 is number of respondents.
Or respondents.
10? Sige, okay. 10 baka ha. Alright, again, remember, sige, ako sa try ha og 10. Okay, 10. The answer is 6.1. Where in the graph is 6.1? Wala, right? Wala, no? It's 1, 2, 3, 4 naman ang imuhang score. So, meaning to say, you should not use the 10 here because the 10 only represents the category you assigned to very satisfied, satisfied, not satisfied, and very unsatisfied. So you should divide it to the number of respondents. Okay, so 61 divided by 20, that's 3.05. Meaning to say it is in between very satisfied and satisfied. So your score is in between here. Nakagets ra? So this is your weighted mean. All right? Weighted mean na siya. Okay? Sige. Yes, 20 jud siya dapat. Next, how about this one? For the likelihood. So same with the likelihood, you assign numbers gihapon. So when you assign numbers, so this is based on the likelihood that they are going to buy new chocolate bars, right? So we have very likely, likely, not likely, and very unlikely. So we have frequency 8, 3, 4, and 5. And then you use a category or numerical number to assign to very likely. So let's say the higher the number, the better gihapon. So na. So what you do in a weighted mean is you multiply your number of category times your frequency. Okay? So 4 times 8. Okay? 3 times 3, which is 9. 2 times 4, which is... So meaning to say, in number 2 category, only 4 answered not likely. Okay? And then 5 times 1. Alright, then you sum all the responses because that's how you do a weighted mean. And then your weighted mean now is 54 divided by the number of responses. So your number of responses should be 20. Kaya 20 man ito yung mong i-interview. So therefore, the score is 2.7. So how do you interpret 2.7? That's in between 2 and 3, right? In between not likely and likely. So it's either they will buy or not buy products, choco bars. So that's how you do weighted mean. Questions? Now, when do you use weighted mean? Do you have idea? When can you use weighted mean? Sige daw. When do you use weighted mean? Before we proceed to the next. No idea? So, I'm not sure in ETEEAP if your scores are based on units, but for college students, the bigger the units, the bigger its contribution to the score. When you want to use an average with category or in cluster. So if naka-cluster ang imuhang data, then Yeah, most likely ordinal data, or so long as it's in cluster, you can use weighted average. So like for example, no, mechanics is 3 units, but major subjects are 4 units. So even though you get great score in, let's say, PE or NSTP, pero 1 unit ra siya, it's not going to give much contribution to your final average. Okay? So the weight of the units are your basis for calculating. What else? Maybe in a practice, in your business practice, asa siya ma-apply kanang, for example, you want to determine if product A, or mas tagaan mo og important si product A because it's your most saleable product perhaps compared to the other products, and then you just put a contribution rate or score or weight to that. Yeah, then some data values. Yeah, mo na siya. When you consider more than others, you will have to use weighted mean. Okay? So, kana siya. Next, data with group, dealing with group data. So if you have a group data, guys, I think you will be able to use this one if you're going to do the questionnaire, the one that I mentioned. If you want to make a frequency table, you have to deal with group data. So for example, this one, you have a sample size of 40 students who qualified in examination in math. So these are the data 79, 83, so on and so forth. These are 40. Now, you have to make a frequency table, and this is the frequency table of that data. I'm not sure if we still have time. Do we have time pa ba? Yeah, it's still 4, so till 5 pa man ta, mahuman pa rin na to. So frequency distribution table is basically making an ungrouped data into a group data so that it will be easier to understand. So like for example, in the class interval of 10 to 19 na nag-score og 10 to 19, may 5 ka buok. Gets? For students with scores 50 to 59, there's only one who got a score of 50 to 59. Then for 40 to 49, only 2 got. Asa man ni siya nganong 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 naman ni siya nganong di man ni siya 40. I think this is a different example, but I guess our role is to make a frequency distribution table for this raw data here and turn it into like this. Okay? Sige, how do we do that? Nanay nagkaraoke sa among silingan. So, let us familiarize first these terms: class boundaries, class size, and class marks. When we say class boundaries, these are the so-called true class limits. So, gitawag na siya lower class boundary and upper class boundary. So, as you notice sa iyang description, middle value of the lower class limit of the class and the upper class limit of the preceding class. Sorry guys sa background. So, at least natin yung background music, di ba? So, the middle value of the lower class limit of the class and the upper class limit of the preceding class. So, say pasabot ana, middle value ko no sa imuhang lower class limit o upper class limit. So, example, no? This one, 19, makita na no ako arrow, 19 and 20. So, unsa may middle value nilang duha? So, ang middle value nila is 19.5. That's your LCB. Sorry, your UCB. Your LCB is 10, and then of course, diri is 9 man na siya diri. So, the middle value nila is 9.5. Here, the lower class boundary is in between 19 and 20. So, sa 19 and 20, that's 19.5. Sa 29 and 30 kay 29.5 ang tunga. So, mo na ilang gitawag og Gitawag na nila og true class limits. Nga naman, ganun kailangan pa man na siya. What if na ay score nga, di ba kay 19 and 20 man ano? What if na ay score nga 19.5 or let's say yung score kay yung score kay 19.8. So asa man ani mo siya ibutang sa frequency, right? So if the score is in between the interval 19 and 20, let's say 19.8, where are you going to place that in the frequency? So syempre, you will place that in since 19.8 man siya, so you will look in you will go to your lower or class boundaries because those are your true limits. So that is in between 19.8 man to, no? So 19.8. Therefore, you are going to place that here sa 20 and 29. So that's the purpose of having lower class boundary and upper class boundary. Okay? So let's say, for example, 29.7. Oh, where are you going to place 29.7? You're going to place in the third interval. Diba? Because it's 29.7. Or if it is 29.4, so you can't see 29.4 in your class interval, but you can see it in the lower, in the class boundaries. So you will place it here in the second interval. Questions? Claro na? So that's the purpose of class boundaries, guys. Okay? Because these are your true class limits. Now, for the class size, it's the difference between the two consecutive upper limits or two consecutive lower limits. In short, it's the range of values you allow in the interval. So example, 10 and 19. So the difference now of your upper and lower. So 20 minus 10, that's 10. 29 minus 19, that's 10. And another way to do that is 10, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So that's 10. Gets ra? So to easy do that, subtract ra nimo. 30 minus 20, 10. 39 minus 29, 10. Or if you want, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. So 10 gihapon. Okay? So that's class size. For class marks, this is the midpoint of your middle value of a class interval. So example here, 10 and 19. So unsa ko yung middle value ni 10 and 19? So since 10 to 19 is 10, so it's an even number, you get the median. But the easiest way to do that is just 10 plus 19 divided by 2. So 10 plus 19, that's 29 divided by 2, that's 14.5. Diba? Mas dali, no? 20 plus 29 divided by 2, oh, that's 24.5. So mas dali siya, right? So that's the easier way to get the class marks. All right. Questions so far with class boundaries, class size, class marks. Okay ra? Kasabot ra? Sure? Mga silingan nga ko nag-fiesta. Sige, so kasabot ra sa class boundaries. Do you understand ra sa class boundaries, class size, and class marks? Alright, let's now proceed to components of FDT. Now, natay gitawag og cumulative frequency. So, cumulative frequency shows the accumulated frequency. So, you're actually just summing up the cumulative frequencies of the successive classes. So natay gitawag og greater than CF and less than CF. The purpose of getting this one is for your, nakalimot ko sa term, it's a type of graph, but we're not gonna discuss that now already. Okay, but the purpose of this one is that you will be able to determine if it's greater than your cumulative frequency or less than your cumulative frequency. Now, how to do that? Let's go back to the example. So notice, greater than CF. So your cumulative frequency is, let's go back to the formula ha, shows the number of observations greater than your LCB. So less than is less than your UCB. So greater than LCB daw si greater than. So greater than LCB. So your LCB is 9.5, correct? Now, how many of your greater than, how many of your greater than ni LCB, CF? So your LCB is 9.5. Pila man ang greater than ni LCB? Kani sila tanan, di ba? Which is 20 to 59. So you just add everything up. Actually, everything good, which is 15. So 5 plus 4, 9, 12, 13. 15. So everything is actually greater than CF. But ang less than CF was ano to? Less than the UCB. So what's your UCB? Your UCB is 19.5. So which ones are less than 19.5? Diba only 5? That's why 5 ang naka-place here. Okay, next. Less than CF, diba? It should be greater than less than 29.5. So which one are less than 29.5? Diba? 5 and 4 only. That's why it's 9. But greater than CF is greater than LCB. So LCB is 19.5. Which ones are greater than 19.5? Diba this one? Kanilang sila? So that's 4 plus 3, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's why greater than here is 10. Okay? Sabot ra, don't worry guys, I did not include this in the activity kay medyo complicated ni siya.
Salamat daan, ma'am.
Na-stress mo, Kwan. So, wala siya ang cumulative frequency. Alright. Now, how do we make a frequency table? So, determine first the number of classes you need. So, to compute that Sturgis approximation formula. So, Sturgis approximation. sorry. So, determine the number of classes. So, formula is 1 plus 3.322 log of n. So, that's Sturgis approximation formula where k is the number of classes and n is your sample size. You get the lowest and the highest value. Then after that, you get the value of the range, which is highest minus lowest. And you determine the class size, which is r over k, and construct the classes, which is same sa ibang class size, and determine the frequency and tally the scores. So this is the example, no? Our goal is to make this one. Don't worry, again, dili niyo siya included. So this is our raw and group data, and then after doing the frequency table, it now becomes like this. Okay? Now, how do we do that? Okay, let's make one. Through Excel lang ta. Sayo pa man sad, mahuman pa rin nato. I will also upload this one, the Excel that I made in this class so that you can check. Naghanap po sa numbers. Uy, dili na nako I'll just choose 10 lang siguro. Okay, di na nako ma-type. Okay, for a while. So, naman mga kanta. Okay, so, sorry, wala di ko naka-share screen. Okay, so, for example, you have this ungrouped data. I'll just use, I'll just use 10 numbers. 79, 93, 40, 49, 83, 64, 51, 65, 84, 59, and okay, sakto lang, kana lang. So our goal is to make this into a group data. So how to make that into a group data? So to ang first rule, we use the Sturgis approximation formula. So Sturgis approximation formula states okay, ako i-copy. Okay, para na may guide. So this is the formula. K, kadako. K is equal to 1 plus 3.322. So fix na siya guys ha. You should not change that because that's Sturgis approximation formula. So to determine your K or class interval, your N is 10 because 10 naman itong sample size nga gigamit. So 10 na siya. Okay? So 667. So 1 plus 3.322 multiply log. Okay, there's a command in Excel that is log. Number is 10. Ay, ganun, gisaw mo na ako. 10 na siya, guys. Count na siya. If the log there is 10, you don't need to put base anymore. Kaya automatic 10 man na iyang base. Dito na siya. So 4.322. So count din siya dapat count. Okay. So meaning to say, you need to have 4.322 classes. So round up or round down, ma'am? Always round up. So that's 5. So that you can cater all the classes. Okay, after that is the next process is get the lowest and the highest value. Okay, that's the next process. So which one is the highest, guys? Based on our kani. So second step is get the highest and the lowest. Okay, so your highest is your maximum, right? So in Excel, we have max, no? So maximum is 93, lowest is, we also have a command min for minimum number. So dito kailangan magtanaw-tanaw, right? So Excel does it for us. So that's your highest and lowest. The third step is compute for the range. And range is computed by highest minus lowest. So your R here is highest minus lowest, which is 53. Okay, next, compute for your, the next rule is compute for your class interval. The K there represents your class number or class size. Here is your class interval. So, class interval computation. And the formula is, oops. Ano naman siya? Type. R over K. So that's why your class size is your range divided by K. Now, which one are you going to use? The K with 4.3322 or the 5? So the safer one is use the 4.322. So the 5 there will just be, you will know later if ma-5 siya, but I suggest you use the original number, which is 4.322. Okay, so you will come up with 12.2628. So in that matter, you will have to round up. So that's 13 ang class size. All right? So now, after that, so since 13 man na siya, you now create your frequency table. Create your intervals. All right, so since 13, you start with the lowest value. Your lowest value was 40, right? So 40 plus 13. So 40, 41, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. So actually, mag-plus 40 plus, add 1 na ka, no? Okay, 13, 53, minus 1, 12 lang, no? And then 53 plus, 52 plus 13, ilan na siya? 65? Am I correct?
Yes, 65.
65. So no, next, 66. And then 66 plus 13, 78. Correct? Now, kano sa mga muhunong? It mentioned there that your class intervals are only, your class size is only 5. Not class size, intervals rather. Your class intervals are only 5. So you stop at 5. Okay? Kung maka-5 na ka, then you stop. So 79 plus 13, 102. Correct? Sakto ba? Yeah, 102. Pero nalapas na no, 93 naman ang highest. So I think this is round down the initial, round down, not round up. Or if we push with 12 here, I think if 12 rin ni siya, maka 5 gid ta. Sige daw, let's try. 51, and then this is 52, and 64. Am I correct? Huh? 63. Sakto? 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51. Yeah, correct. Then plus 12. Yeah, that's 63. Okay, 64 plus 12, 75. And then 76 plus 12. 12, 7. 80. Am I correct? 87?
76.
76?
Yeah.
64, 64, 66. Sakto na, 75. I-12 man nato siya. And then, mo na ni, correct na ni. So, 87. So, round down ang class intervals. But this one is, we have to round it up. So, 87 plus 12, it's, 88 na ni. Right? 88 plus 12. 90, 12 man. 92. Ha?
100.
Sorry.
100.
12?
100.
99.
100.
Dili kay 88, 89, ano man siya?
99.
89. O, ano man siya? 99.
99.
Kaya dapat 88, 80. No, di na siya talaga mo ihapong more than 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 99, sakto. So, as you noticed, yeah, I think that you have to round down for class size, but for class intervals, you have to round up to accommodate the largest number. Your largest number, Manggod, is 93. So, you have to put a place here. So, as you notice, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then siya 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, then ang next step is, of course, you add your frequencies. So, 79. Asa man na nato ibutang sa 79? Here, di ba? So, 1. Next, 93. Here. 40. Here. 49. Asa na ang 49? Diri, 2 na. 83. Here. And then, 64. Okay, 1 here. 51. Diri, 3. 65, here 2 na, 84, here also 3 na, and 59 here. So, you sum it up, dapat it should be 10. So that's how you make a frequency table. So to make your frequency table, oops. So this is your class range or size. And then this is your number of intervals or K. And then this is your frequency. Then UCB na din ka, LCB, UCB, okay? So I'll just give the first part. So ang LCB ani is 40 and 39 man to, right? So what is the middle of 40 and 39? Diba? It's 39.5. And here, 51 and 52, the middle is 51.5. So ana na siya. And then ang greater than CF, okay, greater class marks. Class marks is very easy. 40 plus, oops, sorry. 40 na siya plus 51. So ang imo rang boundary and imong limit, lower limit and upper limit, i-add ra and divided by 2. That's actually the middle value. So that's just for the class marks. Okay, and then greater than CF and less than CF and greater than CF. Ano na siya? Questions? I think na yung mga chat. Wait, I'll read. Yes, I will include this in Moodle. No questions. All right, so questions so far, wala na? So I hope you understood this one. Sorry. Okay. I will put this also. Ako itry nga all the 40 will be really placed there, and then with the formulas, so naka-formulate na tanan so that you have an idea and you can go back if ever you want to create group data. Questions? None so far? Yes, I will upload also the sample in Moodle so that but the questions, it's just in the I think it is included in your di ba you have a summative exam? Is that summative exam or compre? Di ba you have compre? So yeah, this is included. Yes, I will include the Excel in na naka-formula, so yeah. You will have to include this in your, especially this one, guys. This will be included in compre, and also the I'm not in charge with the exam though, but they mentioned that the PowerPoint that they gave me actually is included. So yeah, so I feel good. All right, question. Wala na no. Let's proceed to. Okay, we have 30 minutes. That's still a lot of time. So we have the arithmetic mean. So as mentioned, to compute for average is just summing all the values divided by how many are they. So for example, you have 20 respondents, and then these are their scores. So total scores divided by 20. So that's very easy. All values are used. It is unique. So the very important characteristic of a mean is that it has a unique value. So it does not go to a range. So naka-unique value did siya, like 17.6 is the average, it's 17.6. The sum of the deviations from the mean is 0. So when you sum all the deviations of these values, it's actually 0, and it is calculated by summing all the values. Wala dyan ko ilabot sa compress, so they will be designing the comprehensive, but yeah, for sure the methods are going to go out. So please remember lang. Next, sample mean. So to compute for the sample mean, you just have to add everything, 90 to 83, and then divided by 12. Then you have an average of 97.5. Okay, so that's very simple. So this one is, they want to know if how many minutes of calls do they use. So the purpose of this one is for kanang mga promo, no? As you notice, 97.5 is the average usage of people. I have a plan, and my average usage na allowed is only 90 minutes. So meaning to say, they already computed that each person could potentially be more than 90 units, which is 7.5, and that's an excess to their company. So it's an added profit to their company. So that is actually a good method to do statistics. Okay, so kanang mga 90 minutes free call, 1 GB data, those are actually, that is actually part of the statistics already being used by the company. So it's not only just offering percent, no, dapat gi-studyhan na siya before it is offered to the market. Okay? Now, median, on the other hand, guys, is different because you are actually getting the middle value of all the range of values. The advantage of getting median is that you only consider the middle values and you did not include outliers. So, ang disadvantage ni mean is actually the advantage of median. Because in median, whatever are the values in the middle, they did not include those bigger or smallest values. So how to do that? So do not mind anymore the formula because maglabad inyong ulo, ana. So So I will have to teach you how to do the median in a simpler way. Example. Right. Now, if you are given a median with only odd numbers, I'm sure you know the difference between odd and even, no? So if odd gani ang numbers, guys, automatic, the middle value is your median. So for example, 5 samples, no? As you can see in the screen, 5 samples. So 21, 25, 19, 20, and 21. 5 sila kabuok. Divided by 2. So in anara, what you're going to do is n plus 1 divided by 2. Right? That's the formula. So 5 plus 1 is 6, right? Divided by 2, 3. Meaning to say you will get the third number. So the third number is 21. That's why the median is 21. Gets? Gets ra? So ayun na ninyo hunaw-hunaang kani, no? Maglibog man mo ani. So the easiest method there is determine first if it's odd or even. If it's odd, n plus 1 divided by 2, and the answer is the position in the statement, in the sequence. So you have to arrange first the order. So 19, 20, 21, 22, 25. And the third number is 21. That's why your middle number is 21. Now, if the given values are even, kato gihapon, n plus 1 gihapon, divided by 2. So 4 plus 1 is 5. Divided by 2, that's 2.5. No? 2.5. Meaning to say, you are going to get the second and the third number. So, kung mo sa second and third nga number, imong i-average sa second and third number. So, nakagets? So, example, i-order of data nimo siya, so 73, 75, 76, 80, and then the middle numbers, second and third, are 75 and 76, and the average of 75 and 76 is 75.5. So 75 plus 76 divided by 2, 75.5. Gets? That's the median. I'll give an example more ha, para mas masabtan. Wait, sir. I'll open Excel again. Asa akong Excel? Wala lagi. Excel, where is the Excel? Here. So example ha, I'll give another example. Let's say, give me random numbers lang. I'll just think of random numbers. 25, 28, 29, 30, 15, 7, 60, and then let's say 10. Now, you count first how many numbers do you have. So that's
7.
That's 7, right? So it's odd, no? So if it's odd, guys, so since 7 man ni sila kabuok, 7 n, kung ano gina siya? The formula is n plus 1 divided by 2. Ana rin siya always. So your n here is 7, right? So 7 plus 1 divided by 2.
That's 4.
That's 4. So meaning to say you get the fourth number in the range. Sorry, in the numbers. But in order to do that, you have to sort it first. So there's a command here in Excel, sort. So sort from smallest to largest. So nakasort na. And which one is the fourth number? 1, 2, 3, 4.
29.
So your median is 29.
29.
So your median is 29.
29.
Right? Now, if it becomes a even number, so let's say mag-add ko usa to make it 8, so let's say 90. Now, mag-add ko 90. Still the same, n plus 1 divided by 2. So that's 8 plus 1 divided by 2, right? 4.5. Meaning to say you're going to get the fourth and the fifth number. And then average. Okay? Now, which one is the fifth? Fourth and the fifth. This, kaning duha, di ba? So, you just average the two. So,
29.5.
29. Yes, 29 plus 30 divided by 2. That's 29.5. So, you notice they have different median. Of course, we added mansad another value. Now, you notice the median is just 29, but there are actually students who got 10 points only, or a student who got 90, maybe perfect. So that's the disadvantage of median. It does not, that's the advantage rather. It does not consider the outliers, because whatever are the middle values are the considered median. Okay. Now, why do people use median in businesses? Why do you think so? By the way, before that, I have a secret, no? Para dili na mo mag n plus 1 divided by 2. There's a command in Excel, median. Dito ra, median. Automatic. 29.5. Diba? Wala na ito nag-isod-isod. So that's the power of...
Asa ma'am, ang median, ma'am?
Yan sa man to, ma'am.
Asa
type
makita
ra.
ng median, asa kinatasaan?
Dili, type ra. Equal sign. So ako i-type
Formula
ha.
na siya.
Formula,
Okay.
median. And then you highlight the numbers. Then the numbers na inyuhang i-add. So equals median. So if ever you have large numbers, so like 100 or more, of course you cannot arrange and sort and count, diba? It will take time. So just use equals median. Okay? And then, kato, question, when do you use median? Or when does a business use median and not average? Sige daw. Ideally, sa compre is you have to do calculations. So you have to, kuan yun, you have to know how to compute. No pa day secret. Yeah, there's a secret. Excel has a secret. So if ever you're going to use that in your, yeah, I think calcu lang, murag dili mo mag-Excel. Ala, tsaka na dayo. But right now, since we're in pandemic and then you have to, I think allowed naman siguro mo mag-Excel kay Moodle man. One subject magani. But I think you're only given mga 10 numbers, Ana. It will not be too much. So don't worry. Sige. Next, last na lang. Another, wala pa mo dito bag. When do you use kuan? Sige. When do you use kuan? Median.
Use it kuan, ma'am. Gamit mig medyan, ma'am, kung na Excel.
If makuha og value
Using central tendency, ma'am.
Options.
Identifying the skewness of the skewness of the mean.
Yes, pwede. Actually, when you get the skewness, you have to get the three good, mean, median, and mode. But in business, why do some companies prefer median and not average or mean? Why do you think so?
In order to analyze the break-even output of the income or the product.
Katawa, ni Ma'am Bitay. Kuan, ma'am. Yeah, somehow that's also correct. You want to get the break-even, and you do not consider in your analysis the outliers. Kay base nun niya, if you consider the two large numbers niya, let's say those are during the peak season, and it will not be applied to normal operations. So that is why you prefer median than average. So if you want to eliminate seasonal data, you want to eliminate ka ng two, like for example, karon sa pandemic, you might want to eliminate this one. So you might use median instead of average. Because if you average man good, you include everything, whether the values are small or large. So that's why better na you use median for elimination of outliers or seasonal data. Okay, last na gyud. Hopefully you got that right, median. Next is mode. Pinakasayon gyud ni siya. Mode is the value of observation that appears most frequently. Sige, balik-balik. So, di ba complicated tayo ang formula, but do not believe the formula because the formula just states that whatever is the values that is most occurring, that is the mode. Example, this one. Annual salaries of quality control managers. What is the modal annual salary? So which one do you think is repeating in the numbers? Sige daw, be?
60,000.
60,000.
Right? So, automatic dayon si mode, di ba? Whichever is repeating, automatically, we can already assume that the average salary of quality control managers in selected states is actually 60,000. So, if mo less than, mean to say California has lower in salary. Maana na renta. Texas is the highest from the average. So that's the purpose of mode. You can automatically assume the value or the average. Mabito nang kanang pangutanon ka, no? How much are you earning per month mostly? And then you notice in your earning that you receive 20,000 in sales per month. So you can assume already na, usually I get 20,000 per month. So that's actually mode without us realizing. Because if, for example, a friend asks us, no, na, how much do you earn in your business, in your sales? And you say, I earn usually 20,000 in that range. So it's not the average because you did not consider all the values. Maybe there's a month that you got 100,000 or lesser than 20,000. But in average, let's say in a year, mga 5 months, you receive 20,000 in a continuous number of months. So automatic, your mind actually registers 20,000. So that's mode. Okay. Now the purpose of mode is for easier production. Like for example, no, like you assume already in the production that you actually have demand of 1,000 of product A. Then although in average, based on history, it's not 1,000 you'd fix. But in your normal routine, you always produce 1,000, and in the 1,000 there is no excess and no left out or no tawag ana kana mga backtrack or backlogs, sorry. Wala mga backlogs, so therefore you always assume that 1,000 is your production rate. So that's actually mode. Okay. Question, can mode be 2 or 3 or 4? Or is mode only once?
Mode can be more than once.
Yes. Yes, depending on the number. Yes, ma'am, correct. For example, if we do it in Excel, guys, I'll share in Excel. For example, here, no? What if there are no repeating values? Do you have a mode? Yes or no?
No mode.
No mode. For example, this values, kani-kani. Is there a mode or not?
None.
None, right? None. But if I will, okay, there's a magic also for mode. Equals mode, gihapon na siya. Equals mode. Now, if we do mode, example, kanino na mga given, NA ang iya ihatag because there is no repeating value. Alright? But if I will put this as 60, automatic 60 is your mode. Now, what if there are already 2 repeating values? Let's say 28. Why is it 28 rayang gipagawas? So there is also limitations to Excel. Kay Excel is going to return only the value that comes first. Alright, so you have to recheck gihapon from time to time. So let's say, for example, if 60 is already 3, although 28 is 2, but 60 is more occurring, 60 becomes the mode. All right, but if both of them are of the same number, but 28 comes first, 28 becomes the mode. Basta di lang mode. Daga na kus mode. Pwede ka na lang mode nga magawa sa computation. So again ha, mode is only if mubalik jud siya, mag-repeat jud siya, and if there are two nga mag-repeat of the same number, then there are two modes. If siya gid ang pinakadaghan, then usa ka mode. If walay nag-repeat, then no mode at all. Questions? I think that's the last one. This is for activity 3. I'm going to show activity 3, guys, so that you have an idea already. Sayo na kayo pod si activity 3. Okay, so it's a quiz again. And you're just going to answer the following. So these are the number of Starbucks coffee shops in 21 cities within the 20 miles of the University of California, Riverside. Find the median. So these are the values, then you just find the median. Next question is the same number, but this time find the mean, then round off to 4 decimal places. Okay, and last but not the least, find the mode. Anara. And the last number, I think, is weighted mean or average. So based on the number of TVs sold, how much is the average price? This is in terms of mode. Weighted mean. That's all for the quiz number 3. Sayo na kaayo. Questions? I think this is the evaluation form. I am going to put in the... So we're now done. I'm going to put in the chat box. So that is your evaluation form for today's class, guys. I'm going to put in the form also for your groupings for a while, ha? Let me edit lang yun for a while. What information do I need to include, man? Your location, and then of course your if availability sa laptop, no? Resources. What else do you need to be asked, man?
So mag-answer mi ani madam by group me o sa ka grupo?
Dili sa kuan ra to, ma'am. Group activity 2 ra, ma'am.
Sa group.
For activity 1, you have to you have to do it individually. I'll check sa ha. This one, the form that I'm going to give is for the katuganing for my grouping sa inyo, ha, para ma-categorize na mo correctly. So for a while, I'm finding the form. Questions, by the way, so that I can answer while we still have time. Please, by the way, evaluate. Nasa group chat ang link. Kindly evaluate. Saan mo na mga forms? So hopefully you are evaluating now. Questions, by the way, please do not hesitate to ask. Asa man ang ako ang... Nandiyan yung mga background music. Search in conversation. That's maghimo ko og Okay, for a while. Ako sa edit gamay. So I'm going to get your if you own a laptop, what type of connectivity you have, and your level of internet connectivity. But I'm also going to ask for, hala, ano di ko ka-edit, ano? For a while. I think. So far, have you learned something? Hopefully.
Hopefully, ma'am.
Very much, ma'am. Learn din migdaghan, pero nalimot mi dayon.
So if possible, guys, answer gidayon the Moodle if you have already. Para...
Ika na mo sa Moodle ang review, ma'am.
Ara, okay. Hindi na ako ma-edit. Why? For a while. I think nasa ako other account. Oh my God. Learning resources. Okay na mo, dana mo sa kuan evaluation, guys. Manaman nag-photo. Yes, question.
Ma'am, pag mag-take may og quiz, ma'am, na ba review option para kita mo sa mali, ma'am?
Pwede rin ako ibutang ang answer, sir, if mo finish attempt na ka, pero ang naka-limit mong good ana, sir, kay if once na mo submit na ka and ma-show na ang answers, dili na ka-answer balik. So, mo na nga I have to di pa na ko ipa-show ang answer para maka-answer pa ka all the time. But it will dictate nga mo ni imong wrong ani nga number. Ana siya. Ano di ko ka-edit?
Dili din may kakita dayon sa mong answer, madam?
Dili sa siya, ma'am. Dili sa, ma'am, para
kanang sa tagtikuang, madam, ipakita na lang nga intara na lang sikretoa.
Ma'am, parehas oban man ba na ay corresponding answer?
Pwede man siya na corresponding, pero dili na mo maka-answer balik, ma'am. Okay ra.
Oy, tula.
One attempt ra siya, ma'am.
Ma'am, alo itaw ka na mo, ma'am, mga tiguang na, ma'am.
Bitaw, ma'am, ang among
ang mga course, ma'am.
Mga kids meron estudyante, ma'am.
Pamantawon ka, madam. Memorize pa nimo kami itaw mga tiguang na. Unsa may amuang ko ni
Seconded, madam, bithay. Pareho kita ani na. Buwan taw ko diri, madam.
Lagi. Hapit ako maupaw, madam.
Kung man good siya, ma'am, si Moodle mong good is automatic if makita ang answer, dili na maka-answer og balik. So,
sa palagi na mong subject, madam, kay makita na mo ang answer key, nya pwede pa may maka-retake o balik.
Mao ba? Nya ma-perfect na ninyo, ma'am.
Oh, sure.
Perfect kayo, ma'am.
Bante kayo, ma'am.
Porting perfect ka. Pagsailuan na sa tiguang, madam. Uy, kitiguang naman in town. Uy.
Madam, bithay, dili ka naging nasara, madam. Nagkanta, madam. Pareho ito mas tiguang, ma'am. Nga, mo memorya, buhay na in town, ma'am.
Pero sa'yo na good siya, promise, sir.
Na, ang butang ito, ma'am.
Multiple choice na good siya.
In case na ay mga naami malisdan, pwede naman may mo PM nimo.
Yes, pwede na good. Yes, pwede na good.
Ay, ito ba good, madam, ha? Ay, ayaw, may ka nang
yes.
Zone, ha? Si Shannon Weaver, ha? Basta nusal may Shannon Weaver.
Ano Shannon Weaver, ma'am?
Sin zone. Gisin zone lang.
Ah.
Bitaw, madam. Bitaw,
Sige,
nindot
ma'am.
man natin mong discussion, madam.
Thank you, ma'am. Kuan ma'am, mag-add ko diri og kanang which where are you located right now, no? Where are you located right now? Then kuan na lang, answer na lang mo short answer required. Okay. Kanira, okay na ni siya. Okay, ako i-send. So please answer this one so that I can group you accordingly. And then I will have to add myself sa inyong FB group. Oh, sorry, FB chat. There. Kindly answer the form so that I can group you well. And then if done na mo sa evaluation sa faculty and this one, I think we're okay already. So kindly comment lang sa chat box nga done na ka sa both para pwede na kami leave. If wala na may questions ha, actually unlimited attempts akong gibutang but wala jud siya answer. Wala siya answer. Unya na ang answer if the con is closed, if the quiz is closed. Okay, if you're done, if please answer that one. Done na pud sa evaluation. Manaman sa tag picture, no? Okay na to siya.
Ma'am,
Yes, sir.
pwede siguro ma'am na i-average na po, ma'am. Hangyo lang po may gamay, ma'am. Maloy po kasi
Si average, sir. Si average, sir.
Two attempts, tapos i-average na ang grade na mo, ma'am. At least baga,
Kuan siya, sir. Highest nimo na grade ang imong score. Mo akong gi-kuan. So, inig-attempt nimo kung unsay highest nimo nga score, mo imong grade. Ana siya. Oo. Pwede man na siya sa model. Ayaw lang i-average kay mas kuan ang average, sir, mas mugamay man kay di ba if gamay ang usa then dako ang usa inig average mugamay man siya, so at least ang highest ni mga score.
Sige.
Mas magamay.
So yun na kayo, sir, oy, promise.
Na, ginoo
So,
ko, ma'am. Abi mo, ma'am, naman.
Sa sir? Kulbaan sa talis. Sige, please answer. Ang attendance link, by the way, ako i-check, ha? Attendance link. Ah, yes, this one. Moni ang attendance link. Sige, if you're done na, guys, you can, ako na ni-stop recording. You can go now and class dismissed. Thank you very much. I hope you have learned something from me this afternoon and morning siguro sa uban or kadlawon sa uban. I don't know. I enjoyed Mommy learn a lot. At least I explained mo in detail, but everything changed with the Far Nation Avatar. Thank you, Ma'am Bithay.
Thank you, Madam. See you.
See you, Ma'am. See you.
Thank you, Ma'am.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Keep safe, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.